Hello and welcome to the Weekly Sprawl podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I'm also Ryan.
Close enough. And we...
No, I'm Hunter. Good morning, everyone. We're waking up.
We are... I've been awake all night. You are waking up, friend.
I'm barely awake.
But today we're going to be going over the horror ttrpg of generational fuckery and darkness, Kingdoms, from Sophia Sophia Tinney. I've tagged her in everything all day. Yeah, great. I'm so excited for this game. It's like, yeah, it's wonderful. We'll get to it. What are your first impressions? I know you've read it a lot more than I have, but
I like it a lot. It's a really great Into the Odd hack.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, I got there.
Yeah,
I really, I'm really looking forward to playing this eventually with somebody. So
yeah, let's fucking do it.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it quick because we're about 10 minutes late and we want to hit a lot of Zemo projects, but a couple of things to start. One, I'm going to try really hard not to yell into the mic this week. When I was editing the last one, I realized I was projecting like quite loudly. So you're going to get more of a podcast voice today. Hopefully we'll be down here. And two,
welcome to our true crime podcast, guys.
There you go. Murder. Well, I mean, it is the game will do that too. The second thing, and something I keep trying to remind myself, and I finally put a sticky note, for all of you people that just want to listen to the review in the podcast of the game, it usually starts about 45 minutes in. I always put the timestamp in the description, and on YouTube it's bookmarked anyway. So if you don't give a shit about Kickstarter or crowdfunding or any of that stuff, one, you should, because a lot of the games are cool. But two, you can just skip that shit. I put the time right in the bottom.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
go ahead and
definitely do that. But it is kind of the lifeblood of the industry, and whatever.
Just give people options. But today also we are going to be starting our first Kickstart the Podcast for Zemo, or Zemo month 2022. It is Zemo.
It's the month of being broke because we spent all of our money on Zemo.
Don't even get me fucking started. It hurts how much money I spent. But what I do, I'll work extra. And projects still dropping the whole time. We got a bunch of them coming out at the beginning of each week. So on the 8th and the 15th, we got even more projects coming out. But two projects I want to talk about. Well, we're going to try to get to like 4 projects today, but 2 in the beginning. Generally, we go over a lot of Kickstarter projects, and you get we go over the Kickstarter page, see what looks cool about it. A lot of projects we're going to be talking about are actually on itch, or they're itch funding, which is completely different. And for those that don't know what that means, on itch funding, basically, you get oftentimes what's called an ashcan, which is mostly a text only version. A lot of times you'll get something on itch, and the money that you're doing goes towards doing more for the project, getting it done. And the great thing about itch funding versus Kickstarter is if the itch creators don't reach their goal, they still get the money. And they can still work towards finishing that project. It might just not have as many, as much art or as many authors or adventures or something like that.
Something still gets done. They still get money from it. Like,
exactly. It's
not total loss. Also, it's not Kickstarter, so shout out to that.
There you go. A lot of creators are moving towards, like Adam Vass went to GameFound. There's some that are coming out on Indiegogo. So yeah. So I love itch funding for the fact that regardless, like generally you get something right off the bat. The ashcans are really cool. And second, the creator gets all the money regardless. It's not like if they're short on the funding, it just disappears. So the first couple of projects we're going to talk about are itch funding. The first one is called, let me kick over to that right now. There it is. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. There we go. First project we're going to talk about today is called Mariah. This is from Kyle T. Wow, this project blew me away when I first read it. So what we have is the ashcan for it. I backed the itch funding for this. And if you actually go to the itch page, which I was going to have up, but I don't. We actually made a very extensive Google Doc in order to keep all of this stuff in line. So I can just go ahead and click on that, and we'll talk about the itch page a little bit. And then we'll actually go over the project itself a little bit because I did back this and I do have a copy of this. So let's actually kick that over right into here.
We're doing great this morning. We're super on it, super awake.
Oh yeah, a little behind.
Bounced off the walls right now, even.
Yeah. So this is Mariah. This is by Kyle. She made a wonderful document, wonderful game. It is well, first of all, content warning. Blood, gore, sacrifice, and death. Let's just say if you make one of the main mechanics of your game human sacrifice, I'm probably going to like it. And I really enjoyed this one. And this was actually one of the most anticipated games from Tony Vicinda, who runs Plus One EXP. So if you look at this, Mariah is a simple role-playing game of ordinary people facing the extraordinary. It is a game of sacrifice where people living quiet lives at the base of a holy mountain must attempt to ascend in order to ask for the mercy of the gods. It is a meditation on what it means to give for others, inspired by Lisa's Soul Sacrifice and Blessed Messiah and the Tower of All. So yeah, the sacrifice mechanic is just so good. Did you get a chance to read through this?
No, I didn't. I did back it though. So with the sacrifice mechanic, it's like, explain to me, are you playing as a single character? Is it like a group of people? Because you're sacrificing people. So it's got to limit your player characters quickly.
Kind of. So what happens in the game is everyone is a character. And basically the gods are quite upset with you. And you are climbing this mountain, I believe, to basically win back their favor.
As one does.
So, right. And there are trials on the way up the mountain. Each of you are going up for some reason. And you talk about that in the beginning. There is this content warning in the beginning, but it's content warning, but also kind of like a set in the scene. Challenges are hard. You will die. You will lose parts of yourself. But just to answer your question really quickly, you don't ever stop playing the game. Basically, there are the gods that you're trying to please. And if your character is sacrificed or you choose to sacrifice yourself or die, you just become the chorus of the gods, basically. So when you're trying to do something to please a god, like the DM or whatever is the god, but everyone that's died is the other gods in that kind of jury of whether they've accomplished it or not.
Oh.
Yeah. So, so you start with the name, occupation, what you wish for, things like that. And then you move into, we'll quickly go over the challenges. If you really want, to know a ton about this game, just go back it. The Ashkin is like $3 and to get the finished PDF is like $10.
Yeah.
Like seriously. I mean, regardless, if you're cool with blood and you like dark shit, just go get this game, period. And take a read through it. It's really, really good. And it's just, as they have been funding, they've added some more art to the H page and it's great. So basically, you make your way up this mountain seeking challenges. I'm trying to get to the part where it actually talks about of dice and sacrifice. So dice are the tools of the gods. These are some really, really interesting mechanics here to do it too. So when one invokes the dice, they do not command magic to do its bidding. Instead, they ask and the magic answers as it pleases. This is done by stating the challenge to be overcome and the method with which it will be overcome and then rolling your die. So a challenge is presented, you decide how you want to do that, and then you roll the dice. And the way that works is there's a section here. It's this plus omega, omega representing the number of living pilgrims in the group. So 2 omega means a value such as 2 omega denotes the number of pilgrims multiplied by the number before it. So if you have 3 people left, a 2 omega means 6. So you need to roll a 6. That's what you need to accomplish. And then there is another option. It's value plus omega or a value times omega. And you get multiple dice from D4s all the way up to D100s. But there are options to increase your dice as you go. So the first sacrifice grants you a D4. And basically each time you sacrifice, you can go up in the dice. You may descend. And if you get to a challenge you don't want to do, you can just descend the mountain. But that's not fun. Just die. Sacrifice yourself and die. You can also give of yourself for strength. The dice are hungry things, but they reward those who feed them. If you give them a part of your body, a finger, a toe, an organ, an eye, you temporarily, for each body part, your die goes up to the next level temporarily. So if you want to go from D4 to D6 to D8, chop off a toe and a finger and all that kind of stuff, and you can actually increase your dice. So if you really want to succeed on the challenge, people can just start hacking parts of themselves off, and then continue up through the challenge.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then if you can't beat the challenge, basically, I think at any point, you may sacrifice one of your own in order to overcome the challenge in its entirety. So if you want to make sure you overcome the challenge, you can chop parts of yourself off to get better dice to roll. But if you don't think you can beat it, you can literally just have somebody sacrifice themselves, and then you just bypass the challenge and keep going.
Okay.
It's pretty baller. It's pretty fucking dark and baller. It's really, really
high
cool.
stakes decisions, you know?
Yeah. And there are respites as you go, like a small clearing and things like that. And in each thing, you are supposed to kind of like discuss the challenge, talk about how you as these people trying to please the gods would accomplish the challenge. And when you get to the respite, you talk about like fallen friends, speak of the future you wish to create with them, and that they desire to make with you, things like that. So both in and out of character, you can have these prompts to talk about the situation you're in now. So again, I'm gonna go through maybe like one or two of the challenges and talk about it a little bit, and then, as I said, if you want more,
we'll probably end up reviewing this for real some other time. You know?
Oh, absolutely, no question. So the first one is called The Road Less Traveled. So the Road Less Traveled is meant to be undertaken by those new to the workings of Mariah. It's a beginner one, we'll go with that. And as such contains only 10 challenges. Well, this is the road, that's what you're doing. So the challenge is a winding brook. It is 2 plus omega, which means 2 plus the number of pilgrims you have. So if you start with 5, it's a 7 you got to roll over with your dice. So if all you have is a D4, you're not going to get it. So right away you have to start sacrificing body parts to get enough dice to beat this, right? Or sacrifice a person. So this challenge is water winding through the impassable earth, dyed a crimson red with the blood of your fallen friend. It burbles to you their secret longings, their deepest regrets, their final thoughts as it laps at your damp shoes. When you try to look towards its origin, you see a lattice of leafy bristles. Yeah. You blink and the mouth is gone, replaced by a whisper invitation to bathe it, then the ripples will settle down and rest. So what you do at that point is decide how you're going to cross it, explain that, and then do the dice. So, and that's Mariah. Yeah, so as I said, quick peek at it, but go download it. It's great. The second one that we wanted to talk about today that's also itch funding is Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard. And this is by Amanda P.
Great cover, by the way. I just has like this very classic fantasy novel feel on the cover, and I love that.
Oh, yeah. This reminds me of kind of a Green Knight, just a little less creepy, but if you're a paladin is what this kind of feels like to me. So it is a solo game inspired by 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, which is great, Dark Souls, Cairn, a bunch of really awesome stuff, the Oregon Trail.
All winners.
Yeah. And basically it's a solo role-playing game about quests, temptation, and codes. And in this, basically you play a paladin of the Sun Guard and you are approached by a sword saint and told that you need to go on a quest to find your ancient like keep for the pilgrim for the Sun Guard and basically revive that. And on the way you encounter issues that you have to overcome. So I'm just going to read through the example of play because it basically tells you exactly how the game works. Player Amelia created a knight named Sword Saint Lark. She's traveling through the river valley and rolls for an encounter. She rolls 2d6 and gets a result of 2 and 6, then adds them up to 8. She looks at prompt 8, which says a knight in crimson meal blocks the bridge across the river Zanzibar and will not move without a duel to the death. Your quest is of incredible importance to you and your order. What are you willing to sacrifice to cross the river? Spend 2 resources, gain a deed. So in the game, you start by rolling for a number of resources that you spread across a couple of stats, and you have to spend those resources to accomplish tasks. and then you gain a deed. And when you get to your final place to be judged, you have to read through your litany of deeds. So you want to gain more good deeds on the way to there, so you're judged appropriately at the end. And the dice that you rolled determine the prompt. And there's like, I believe, 10 prompts on each one. Amelia decides to wait until nightfall and sneak across the river while the knight sleeps, consuming 1 guile and 1 might, gaining 1 deed. So then she describes a deed as the hidden crosser of the river Zanzibar and records it in her journal. So it's a solo journaling game. These are just mechanics to get you there. On the second week of my journey, I found myself at the great river Zanzibar, guarded by a mighty knight that I did not wish to engage. I waited until the cover of night and crept with great stealth while the dread knight slept. It's really great. Like I said, you have might, guile, honor, and time, and you can lose time too. And when you start the game, there's a really great character creation section where you pick one of 4 archetypes, like the apprentice, the romantic, the cloistered, the veteran. You pick 2 of their 4 traits, like the veteran, you could pick brave and approachable. And then you roll 2d6, total the dice up, and spread those across your resource pool for might, guile, and honor. And you start with 6 time.
I really love these like solo journaling games. Like this looks really cool. Did you play 1,000 Year Vampire?
Oh, I have it, but I haven't played it yet. No.
Okay, I did. I was getting some work done in my car, and so I had to be there for a while. So I was like, dude, I brought it with me and I played. I love games like this, especially like I feel like I'm not doing a lot of writing activities in my free time right now. So stuff like this is a really great way for me to just like practice just being creative solo. Yeah, I'm really into this. I think I'll also probably back this and.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amanda actually sent us a review copy of this. But
that's right.
Yeah. But I think I'm still gonna go actually like back the project too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. So this is what a character sheet looks like: name, background, code, the traits that you have, your resource pool, and then your background, which is the reasons you join. And things like that. I kind of skipped over some of the descriptors that you get, but they're great role tables, really great role tables for a lot of the stuff that you can get from your background, like names, descriptors, things like that. And then I talked in the beginning how the Sword Saint comes and sends you on your message, an ancient rite of the Sun Guard, to pilgrimage to their ancient shrine in the Frost Cliffs to declare the deeds done in the light of sun. So you are sent on this pilgrimage. I just want to talk about.
And they have a playlist. Prompts. They have a playlist for this game on their itch page. Yeah. That's awesome. I love shit like that, dude. Like, music is such a great way to set people into a mentality, into a mode, so.
Absolutely. And again, I this game is so good. I really, really enjoy, first of all the descriptors, the background stuff that you can do at the beginning to make your character. It's really simple, the way that you just roll the 2d6, do your resource pool, and keep going. And it really walks you through. I love that one of the very first things is an example of play. Because I like seeing kind of how it works before I get to it.
Oh, dude, I've been reading stuff recently where I'm like, wow, like how lacking an example of play. Actually, Kingdoms, what we're going over today, is kind of like oh man, I kind of wish you had one,
Yeah. Well, this one not only does the example of play, but there is a section where it talks about it goes over like the order in which you do things. There's the cycle of play here, where it basically says you go to a location, you spend 1 time automatically. You roll 2d6 and add the dice, and you do a prompt. You re-roll your dice if you get the same prompt. Prompts are based around choices your character would make on the journey. You spend resources, gain deeds, record them on the sheet, write down the journal, and then go to your next location, spend more time. So you can actually run out of time. So I'm just going to read 1 or 2 of the prompts and then talk about what happens when you run out of resources. And then if you want more, go download this game. Again, it's itch funding right now. It is not expensive and it's really fun. It's really well done, even in the state that it's at right now. It's fantastic. So there's a section here called the River Valley, rushing water over stones and through the reeds. Creeks join to great rivers flowing down the frost cliffs beyond. Blooms surround you in the great river valley. Roll 2d6 and respond to a prompt. Do this twice and move on. We're just going to pick number 9 because 9 is my favorite number. Chanting and self-flagellating, a group of monks in rough brown robes approach you where you've made camp and demand that you serve as their guardian until you reach the next town. Their capacity for violence is clear. How do you appease them while making your way forward? Spend a resource and 1 time.
Oh, you're going to read
You roll 2d6. You can just read. Okay. You can do another one if you want.
Let's do this. Okay. Got 5.
So number 5, acrobats and colorful performers have set up a theater. The play is farce critical of the local nobility. Some guardsmen approach, grim eyes and sharp blades ready. How do you help the performers escape? How does someone get hurt through you helping? Spend one resource, gain one deed. So you have to use one of the resources that you had from your pool to accomplish this task, and then journal how you used that resource to accomplish your task.
Resource. Yeah,
whether it's
totally.
So if you use might, you have to decide how you do that. The one that I just did, number 9, spends time, because it takes time to actually help these people, and I love that little bit. So every time you're sidelined by one of these challenges, you have to spend time, and sometimes those challenges take longer to get through. One of the things I really love is what happens when you run out of resources. So there is also it's hyperlinked and bookmarked. So yeah, good job.
Shout out for that.
Yeah, shout out for that, especially the bookmarkings. It's really helpful too, if you're not going to hyperlink a ton, but they did. How you broke your code and what you learned for it. First of all, codes and corruption. Basically, in medieval romance stories, people are torn between their nature and their duty, and thematically, the main character breaks their code in some way, learns from the experience, and grows. So when you lose all your resources, basically you get sidetracked by breaking your code, and you actually roll on this table for what is your, like, how you broke the code of your pilgrimage, and then kind of got past that and moved on. So why don't you roll me a d6 real quick?
It is a 3.
I was going to pick 3 anyway. You meet a beautiful stranger and are consumed by an impossible tragic love, like Tristan and Isolde, Lancelot and Guinevere. Who is it, and how do you part at last to continue your
honestly,
journey?
Fuck Lancelot and Guinevere, you know?
Oh, yeah, don't get but Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard is meant to ultimately be about hope, not despair. So keep that in mind, and feel free to rewind if you want to. There's other complications you can do, but once you accomplish your task, roll a d6, respond to the prompt, then roll a d6 and recover that many resources. Return to where you were on your pilgrimage and continue your journey. So basically, if you run out of resources, you get sidetracked by this. You break your code in some way. You journal how you overcome this breaking of your code, learn and get back on task, get some more resources, and keep going. And I absolutely love that.
That's really cool. I think that's really, really cool.
It's the mechanics are like super simple, but so cool. And
I might have a beer later, smoke a joint, and play this. This might be my night.
Go for it. It's so fun and it's so well done. I mean, Amanda did a wonderful job, and I've read through almost every single prompt, and they're so well written. And I love the way that they choose to just the resource mechanic and stuff. Like the entirety of the game, you roll 2d6 and like a d6
idea. Yeah,
it's just really, really, really well done. The book looks fantastic all the way through. The PDF looks great. The what you do at the very end, I'm not even going to spoil that, is really cool. What you do when you earn your deeds and stuff. And what I love about it too is there's so many prompts on each challenge that you could play this through like 5-6 times, and every single time would be completely different. So yeah. So highly recommend this. It is Amanda P. Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard over on itch. We will be posting the itch links and everything for Mariah and for Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard in our Kickstart the Podcast, like recap, and on Twitter and things like that. So between Mariah and Pilgrimage of the Sun Guard, both itch funding, go check those out. Highly really recommend. Can't wait to play this. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, once again, great cover. Very, very reminiscent of an era of fantasy novels that I think it's a good thing,
Yeah, it definitely hits the vibe like right away as soon as you start reading it. So
and we do be vibing out here, bro.
Yeah. So we're gonna kick over to some Kickstarter projects that are also funding right now. You're gonna pick up there.
I gotta sit up. Hold on, let me take my seat out of recline. Sit up straight. Show respect to the projects.
I'm gonna go back to here so I can go to this and not expose myself on how much money I spent on Kickstarter. And then you're doing Knights of Lazarus, right?
I am doing Knights of fucking Lazarus, which I could not be more stoked on. Like, I really am so stoked about it.
Go for it.
Okay, y'all, listen here. Knights of fucking Lazarus. Knights of Lazarus is content for Mothership, which I'm very into right now. And it's just like everyone else's. It is 1E compatible, as you can see on the screen. It's basically a collection of things, right? Knights of Lazarus introduces a faction called the Knights of Lazarus, a fairly large dungeon, which is the ship Canterbury, and then a bunch of artifacts that tie in with those factions. So basically, you get a bunch of rumors for your party and play. This is something that can be worked in as a standalone or work into your ongoing campaign. You can start working a bunch of rumors in. And you come across the Knights of Lazarus, and it kind of seems like you get the option, like whether you want to swear an oath to the Knights or instead lie and try to rob them for their artifacts on the ship Canterbury, which is sick and awesome. I'm very much into it. I think one of the best things about this project is actually the second thing that you get with it. So you get a book called Familiar Faces with a certain level, and it is a book of NPCs. It shows their pictures. It gives an area for you to journal. So it's actually like a player-facing tool for your players to track the NPCs that they meet, write down notes about them, their connections, and that's really, really awesome. And right now, a lot of the goals, the funding goals, past like the regular funding. What are they called, Ryan? Help me. Words are hard. I'm still waking up.
Stretch goals.
Yeah, there we go. Stretch goals. A lot of the stretch goals are more player-facing tools, and I think that's really great. I really want to give my players as much stuff to like physically interact with as possible to really get them like in the mindset of the game. And I just think this is a great project. It's so cool. And if you check out the project, I'm saying a lot today. If you check out the project, there's a preview of the project, and it's beautiful. It looks great. It's really well laid out. I really am excited to get this when it comes out.
One of the other things I really
obviously
love,
backed it maybe the highest tier possible, but whatever. Yeah, no judgment.
One of the other things I love about this, what is the art prints and all of those. I think you get like 10 art prints with like info and stuff on the back.
You do get the art prints as well. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes. There's a lot in this. Yeah. And I mean, the highest tier is. What's one that's the highest tier? I don't even know. I just like, go ahead
it's like 45.
Yeah, it's $45, and you get, I mean, it's just a ton of stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This was like an instant back. I'm gonna be honest too, just the cover art itself, I was like, it's Mothership and that looks badass. I want this really bad.
Honestly, and after reading through it right now, this might be one of my favorite Zemo projects. I think like just because of the player facing tools, which I really am into and want more of, it might be my favorite. Because I want my players to have stuff to look at,
Absolutely. Yeah, actually having like a physical thing in your hands, if you're actually playing physically, and digitally, if that's all you can do, is fantastic. And just like a lot of the other Mothership stuff, it's already 1A compatible. So yeah. So yeah, is that Knights of Lazarus?
That is Knights of Lazarus, baby.
Yeah. All right. Once again, kicking back to a regular window. So.
Actually, we have a physical reward. Did you get yours yet?
I did not.
Oh, let me see. It's in one of my 1,000 drawers. I just have drawers of games on this desk.
Oh my god! Did you see the pile? I need to redo my entire bookshelf.
Hey, I got Merger.
Oh, yeah. 1 second.
Here, I'm gonna turn my background off.
Here, I'll hold it. I'm on the big window right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
There we go. Yeah.
Merger was that the single player cosmic corporation, cosmic horror, post-capitalist cosmic horror.
We talked about this on a past. Yeah, we talked about this on the Kickstart the Podcast. It's a single player role playing game about trying to survive in a world of living predatory corporations. You can see these corporate bodies for what they really are. Glimpses of flesh through cracks in the cement. Long story short, all of the corporations and all the high-rise buildings, of those corporations that you work in are eldritch horrors that control the world.
They're terrifying.
And they're terrifying.
Just like in real life.
Exactly. So I believe it's a Blades in the Dark kind of hack for it. It looks really cool. Yeah. It's not a super long zine, but we will probably go over this also. And that might be the first time we talk about a Kickstart the Podcast project, get the physical reward, and then go over that physical reward, like when it happened. Because some of the other ones we went over, I got previously before the podcast started. But this might be one of the first ones that we actually.
We backed Red Giant, and then we got
Red Giant. Did we do it
while
we were on the podcast? I guess it has been like 15 plus weeks. Yeah, I guess so. Well, one of the first. Regardless, it's really cool. I'm excited for it.
The second one, technically, to be really technical.
There you go. One of the. It's almost as if it was like right after the first one. So the project I'm going to go over that is also a mothership project. Yeah. This is Orbital Debris or Debris. Yeah.
I'm
Chronicles
pretty sure
of a
Debris.
Junk Moon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how I've always said it. Explore an ancient junk-covered moon hurling through space, dangerous factions, ancient technology, and unspeakable horrors. First of all, it's 1E compatible. One of the things that I love about all of this stuff and Mothership in general right now is just how intensely together the community is, especially all the creators for it. So like Sean McCoy, who originally created Mothership, is diehard for the community and has given like a ton of resources and things like that for the creators. A lot of the creators have gotten together and done a lot of things together. And the fact that 1E is not even out yet and he's allowing all of these creators to kind of see it early to make sure that their games fit, it's so good. Like, it's just so like that's the way to make a strong community, because compare that to like the world's okayest and biggest marketed game. It's like they actively, it's like, here's a DM's Guild. By the way, if you publish it on here, we own it. And we get like 25% of everything you make. And
kind of a huge bummer on that one, honestly.
And let's make an SRD that restricts you very, very, very tightly, and then send notices, like takedown notices, if you happen to stray from that at all. Versus this and something like Merkborg, where they're like, fuck yeah, community, do whatever. Like, as long as you're not like actively an asshole trying to rip us off, like we will help you with everything.
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is fantastic. It is a book of 23 strange environments, new factions, bunch of new NPCs, rumors, horrifying alien technology, with 13 authors and 5 artists in a 50+ page zine. Sean McCoy, I mean, the quotes on here are great. And Sean McCoy talks it up. Ian Newsom, who just did the Hull Breach, kind of led that and has written a bunch of other stuff too. Luke Gearing has talked about this really well. A delightful playground of rusty razors and tangled floss. It's 23 eclectic hex. Yeah, right.
A great quote.
23 eclectic hexes written by a team with a wealth of experience, with interconnected environments, 3 clashing factions, a bunch of named NPCs, a bunch of generators. But like I was just saying, my favorite part is if you really go down to the bottom, the way that they all work this together, it is creator owned. Orbital Debris is a project born from third-party publishers Discord from Mothership, where a group of creators wanted to design a collective crowdfunding project. Everything in it is creator owned. Each creator retains ownership over their writing and artwork in Orbital Debris.
That's fantastic.
The collaborative nature has given contributors complete control over their hex writing, with all the background and settings 100% co-written and group developed. And with revenue sharing, all the funds are dispersed based on what each contributor contributed to the project. So it's crazy, like it that you can get this many people into a book, and then everyone in that book owns their part of it. But then they've all done it collaboratively as this like massive group.
I think it's so good. I think it's so good. And I think the thing that, like, Sean McCoy, and all the Mothership team, and then the Merkborg team as well, and a lot of other games that we've kind of looked at, and you and I talked about privately, is like they open up for these hacks that make their game live like way longer. Like, dude, you know how much Mothership shit I'm gonna have by the end of this year? I'm never gonna be done playing the game. And like, we'll keep talking about it, and people will keep going, oh, what's Mothership? And then they'll buy the game, and then they'll buy the third-party stuff. Like, This is a genius way to do stuff. I think it's fantastic. And then Sean McCoy actually tweeted a couple days ago and was like, hey, if you have stuff coming out, I think specifically for Zemo, that is third-party Mothership, he's like, let me know, and I'll share it. I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah. Dude, like at one point he tweeted out that it was just a picture of like all the projects, and he's like, when every single project you look at is for your game, like this is crazy. I mean, yeah, especially Mothership.
Like, I've backed to all of those.
Yeah, almost every Mothership project on Zemo. Both of them, like you just said, have pushed their community so far, or like backed their own community, and again, like you just said, that is what's created this fervor. Can you imagine if Mothership and Merkborg were both like anti third party and like didn't have SRDs or third party licenses? They would not be putting out the projects there now with the funding that they have. Yeah, I don't necessarily think dead, but they definitely wouldn't have got the money that they got for all their projects that they've
faster. Done. Yes, totally.
And they definitely wouldn't have spread as far as they did. So that's just for all you creators out there, building the community will keep your game alive and push it farther than if you try to hug this thing so tight to your chest so you don't let anyone touch it or do anything with it. It's crazy. So that is Orbital Debris and Knights of Lazarus. Yeah, Orbital Debris. Do you want to do the last one? Or you want to save that for next week?
Yeah. We have a few minutes left, so
let me pull up the page for that real quick so I can drag it over to this over here. So go for it.
Cool. So let's talk about No Future. No Future is it's a punk cosmic horror game where you literally play as a group of punks, like literally everyday people that have some sort of like alt punk like part of their life. Like you roll when you make a character, you roll for a day job. And then you are a punk, you're an artist sometime, and you go on this adventure. And I don't want to say too much about it. I was reading it last night. I was drinking and reading it at like 2 a.m. And I was like, dude, this is the fucking coolest thing ever, because there's nothing really over the top about it. You are regular people dealing with like a Cthulhian horror. The first one, issue number 1, the 5 techniques. You and your group are experiencing these dreams as you're like living in part of this, like these Cthulhian, like very much Call of Cthulhu dreams, as you're part of this like punk scene in Ireland. And as you go through the adventure, you run into it's in the 70s, so you run into the IRA, the British Army, and then a bunch of Cthulhian horrible monsters. And there's a resolution that maybe is not the most tightly wound, like not neatly tied up resolution ever. It's very much like an open-ended, like how you want a Cthulhian horror thing to be. And it's fantastic. It's very, I'm saying, even in the book they say this, it's very Lynchian. It's very David Lynch, like that kind of very style and vibe. And I love it. I think it's really fucking cool. It's itch funding right now. It's $5 for an individual one, but there's actually 2 issues. And if you pay $10, you get both issues. Issue number 2 is another really cool adventure where it's about you going to play a gig and in this like essentially mansion. And then things kind of really start to unfold after you play your set at this gig in this mansion that you have to find. And I think it's such a clever game. The mechanics are really simple. You basically, you can roll with an extra die if you have a reason to, like if it's part of your day job or you have a reason to be good at it. And that's most of the mechanics right there. It's very simple, very stripped down. I don't know why, but I just really loved this reading through it. I was like, this is a great experience,
Yeah. Well, even when we were putting it on the list and things like that, we kind of separated things out where we knew like again, we've talked about this, we're very similar, and we're just like there's just a little bit on the edges, and like mine goes towards the dark shit like Mariah and Human Sacrifice, and yours goes towards like 70s English punk scene Cthulhu, and that makes us so good. But yeah, so what their itch funding is for printing. So they've already reached a goal to do a print run, and then basically everything beyond that will allow them to just make more print copies. And you got both of them. Long story short with a lot of it is check out itch. Like if all you do is sit on Kickstarter. Yeah. I listen, Kickstarter, and there's plenty of reasons to dislike it. It's just a lot of visibility, and a lot of people can back big projects and make money. Itch funding, it is a little bit harder because it isn't as if you walk outside the street and say Kickstarter, most people know what it is. If you walk outside the street and say itch, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, people are going, I don't know what the hell that is.
But again, with itch, you keep the money. If you're itch funding, even if you don't complete the funding, you get it. So check out itch for a lot of amazing games, a lot of bundles all the time. It's just a great job, and I just love the way itch funding works, and it's fantastic. So I think that is our Zemo Kickstart the Podcast first kind of segment of the month. And each week for the next 3 weeks in Zemo, we are going to be going over just Zemo projects, things that we backed, or that, you know, when we started this, we reached out and said, hey, if you're doing a Zemo project, reach out to us, let us know, we'll look at it, we'll rep it on stream. And we're gonna try to go through every single one of those projects that people reached out to us, because every single one of them are freaking bangers, dude. Like, there's so many good projects. Oh man, I don't want to. I just literally have not worried about money in Zemo and just said, whatever, I'm gonna get what I want in Kickstarter and I'll make up for it somewhere. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, are you ready for Kingdoms?
Dude, I've never been more ready for anything in my entire life. Oh, let me take a sip of water.
Oh, do it. Let me kick over to Kingdoms right here.
Let's kick over to Kingdoms, y'all.
Boom.
Kingdoms, the zine of generational proportions. Yeah. So, kind of like an initial note before we dive in, this is a fantastic. Oh yeah, I'll hold up my copy too. I got to hold it in front of me because I got the background. Yeah. So we both own this game. We both physically have this game. And this game is an interesting game. It is a mix of Into the Odd, which I love, Dark Souls, which I also love, and then like Crusader Kings, if you've ever played it, which is a game about like building an empire essentially, and having children, having families, and political intrigue. And it kind of mixes all these things together in a really good way. I really am interested to play this game. So let's go ahead and dive in. So our first little, you're doing page by page. I always do spread, man. I'm nice and I'm spoiled like that, you know.
But
I know you can't end the screen, but
yeah. Well, so first of all, what I want to say early is, I know that there was, I guess, an issue in the first printing of this where the paper was too heavy and it kind of fell apart. We have the second printing.
Yeah, this is print number 2, baby. We're in the second printing.
It does not do that. I have been beating this thing up and it's wonderfully done. So if you ever hear that rumor that Kingdoms, you know, kind of fell apart on you, don't worry about it, because it's all good now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I also read some stuff about the first printing, but like, you know, I got this for Christmas this year from my sister. Yeah. And I was like, it's really super solid, and the art's beautiful all the way through. So we're gonna start. First page, we have, you know, roll tables, which we both love to start with. We have personalities and low blood cultures. We'll get to what low bloods are here in a little bit. And the second page is just a good note. Always round down.
I love that.
Don't do that in the rest of your life, but in this game, you can absolutely just round down on stuff.
Which is fantastic, because most games you always get to round up, and this game, it's kind of a big fuck you the whole way through.
Yeah, it's kind of a big, yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Cool. And then there's a Kingdom Tiles roll right there, which I actually haven't used that one yet. The low blood cultures and the personalities I went through and used, but the Kingdom Tiles I did not.
Let's make one real quick. I'm gonna roll 3d6. 6, 2, 3.
So 6. We have negative adjective. So let's say it's the cold or the frigid. You want to do the second one?
Yeah. So it's a frigid realm of. Oh, I rolled a 6, a 2, and a 3.
The frigid realm of gold. You know.
The frigid realm of gold. I'm down.
Yeah.
That's
There's an ice cape where you can mine gold. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of roll tables in here that you can generate a lot of really cool stuff with. I'm very much into this. Moving on. So bad news. Not hyperlinked. Yeah. So
or bookmarks. Or bookmark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No bookmarks. Yep. Empty. I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You know, it's still a good book. You know, I still like it fine. Just be hard to reference at the table very quickly, the digital version.
Well, at least I have the book.
But yeah, if you can see, like in this book, it's not a long book. Like there is 49 pages of stuff, and then 81 is assorted tables. So actually, I think the beast start at 49. So
49 to 81, so it's a bestiary. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is not. Some of the text is a little dense, but the book's really pretty easy to run.
But if you look at the rules section, 9 pages. 9 pages.
We love a short rule section, you know.
Yeah. Well, and technically, the actual rules,
your fantasy words,
the core rules, quote unquote, it's like one page.
Yeah, it tends to be odd. Like the core rules are almost essentially exactly the same. So the intro, the land beats by sorry, gotta get my reading mode. The land beats by at a visceral pace.
Land beats by at a visceral pace.
Oh, there we go. The land beats by at a visceral pace. I feel like there should be a comma. That's okay. Plants grow, seasons wane, babies walk, all in the span of a day. Cells evolve, monsters mutate, the darkness grows as the sun's seat sits vacant. Rapid expansion and decadence, light snuffed by the shadow out of sight just as quickly. Each session, you will take control of a generation. You will squeal and squander, create and invent, build and war in an endless cycle, but the depth of your voice will echo consequences to the ones after. They will hear your voice and will no doubt come. The devil's living on the edge. Man, I'm bad at reading today. The devil's living on the edge of the umbra will face you down to eat, to hate, and to bring the end times. Then you will breed. There will be many and consumingly sinful as their parents before. Truces will be made, sisters auctioned off, perhaps heritage and plaques preserved. In the end, your bed made. Goodbyes, heartbreaks, all will come to an end. Tearful fire keepers, young and innocent, will take your sword and carry on the cycles of kingdoms. So Kingdoms is about a game where you play as multiple generations as time goes on. You play in a world where, like this opening said, the sun sits vacant. There is no sun. There is only darkness. The light in the world is you. Hella tight, you know. Next page, blood. So here we learn about like the different kinds of people that live within this world. You basically have three types of people. You have the low bloods, which are your common NPCs. 1 damage kills them. They have a 3 in all of their stats, so they suck at everything. They're shit. They're 5 to 6 feet tall, and they have no traits. We'll get to traits in a second because traits are fucking cool. After that, you have your high bloods, and these are any non-direct descendants of the god bloods. They're noble NPCs, so they're your nobles. They're your lesser nobles in town, right? They have 1 trait, and they're 6 to 8 feet tall. And then we have the god bloods. That's you, the player characters. The player characters, they're direct descendants, so totally direct line family. They start with a blood trait. They have 2 regular traits. They're 8 to 10 feet tall, so they are fucking giant god people, and they're playable, essentially. They are y'all. The most important resource outside of land and equipment is your bloodline. Over the course of a lifetime, you will birth families, marry into powerful alliances, and nominate your heir to carry the fire long after your passing. So yeah, when you start this game, you generate a god blood, and then you will pick from traits. So right below this, we have our first table, which is your blood trait, which we can roll on now, but actually it's going to refer back to it here in a second. And player creation. What's up, Brian?
I rolled. And I got
Let's just do it. Let's roll for it.
The best worst one. Faceless.
Faceless. No need to eat. There are holes really. There are holes there really small. So you don't have a face. You don't need to eat. There are holes in your face, but they're really small, and you don't have any other facial features, which is fucking weird. That shit's weird as fuck.
So right off the bat, game is fucking weird. You're 8 feet tall and you have no face.
You're 8 feet tall with no face, and people worship you, and it's nice and horrifying. Cool. On the first day she spoke, who shall rule the earth? So we have character creation and rules right next to each other here because there's just not many of them. For character creation, you have 3 stats. You have strength, dex, and will. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. Strength is your fortitude. I'll read it. Physical force, health, carry capacity. Dex is your acuity, acrobatic reflexes, and will is your diligence, sanity, humanity, and force of personality. So will is kind of intelligence, willpower, and charisma in D&D terms, all kind of rolled into one. To determine your stats, roll 3d6 for each stat, and then you may swap 2. Next, you're going to roll a d8 on the previous page, which we already did, and we got faceless. We have no face now. You're encouraged to create your own vibe around your blood trait, strange hair colors, skin types. They really want you to make this like your character is like a godling, like they're a demigod. So you can make them weird and angelic or demonic and massive. They're 10 feet tall with no face. You begin with 2 additional genetic traits. These are mixed with your partner when producing offspring and change and evolve over generations. Brian, why don't you go ahead and roll a d20 twice on the next page, which has our genetic traits on there.
2d20. I got a 9 and a 2.
Cool. So 9. You can do 9.
Hyperlacticidemia. You spend 1 less dex on weapon armor arts, minimum 1.
And we'll get to weapon armor arts. Yeah, they have weapon arts and armor arts, kind of like Dark Souls had weapon arts. And I think it's really cool. And then you said the other one was 2?
Yep.
Hot blood. Deal +1 damage and take an additional damage from all attacks for each time you are struck in combat. Every time you get hit in combat, you hit harder, but also you take more damage. Very much like a berserker kind of vibe with that. Like you're just taking hits and you're going in. Very cool. Under the roll a d20 twice. You start with nothing but rags and your fists, which is d3 damage. You can carry items equal to your strength. So if you have an 18 strength, you can carry 18 items. The last ability to take note of is speed, SPD, which represents how many 5 feet spaces you can move in a single action. This begins at 5, but can be modified heavily by equipment, right? So you can move 5 foot spaces. So 25 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Not very far for like a 10-foot godling.
Yeah, for a god, maybe you don't run, you just stride,
Of course, you're a godling. I ain't running nowhere if I'm a godling.
Yeah.
And plus I have no face.
Yeah. Can't see very well. I'm going to trip over stuff. Okay, rules. Checks. The DM was going to ask for a check. And hey, you know what? It's into the odd. So you roll a d20 and you roll under that stat, which is a fantastic system and very easy. And you now understand all of it. Advantage is that you roll 2 d20s and then you take the lowest. And disadvantage is that you roll 2 d20s and you take the highest. Very simple. Actions are you doing a thing. Pretty much if you're doing anything, opening a door, using a thing, it is an action. Weapon arts were first of our kind of unique mechanisms, unique Dark Souls, but our special actions. A weapon can perform often at the cost of dex. You cannot perform a weapon art and attack in the same turn. So very important note. You're either attacking in combat, you're either attacking or using your weapon art. You cannot do both. Opposite from that, though, is armor art. Unique actions and or equipment piece can perform at the cost of dex. Unlike above, you can perform an armor art and an attack in the same turn. So that's pretty cool. You can do it'll give you some like versatility and actions you can take in, because into the odd, you really can pretty much just attack or maybe do something, but this adds in like another layer of actions you can do in combat. And I don't think it's too much. I think it's a really good choice. Yeah.
And yeah, again, the fact that like all the dice mechanics and pretty much character creation for the most part right there, 1 page.
Yep, right there. You're done. You already know how to play this game now. I mean, for the most part.
You know what I like about this, and we're going to get to it farther as we go. All the things that I wanted from... So I loved Red Giant. Red Giant's a great game. I want to play it really bad. All the things I wanted from Red Giant, I feel like I get from this with the lore and all the rest of the world building and stuff. And I feel like it's almost opposite.
I didn't think Red Giant was supposed to be a lore book at all. So I know that was a complaint that you had, but I didn't mind it pretty much at all. I think it's supposed to be like, especially if you want to play in your own anime environment,
I didn't think it's supposed to be a lore book, but me personally, I just wanted that. And this,
yeah, that's
like,
fair.
not only that like topped the gauge and overflowed in this one. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I could see that. I get it. You're not very creative, Ryan. You don't like to come up with your own settings or anything. I'm kidding. Ryan has a fantastic setting book that he's rewritten like 18 times, but
yeah, we'll see.
I still have the original copy somewhere.
Somewhere. I might.
Yeah, it's still very good. All right, so moving on. Combat. At the start of a round, everyone shuffles their initiative tokens. So this uses initiative tokens, which I don't really like. Yeah. Essentially you shuffle, everyone throws their initiative tokens into a bag, including the beast, the enemy, and you draw a token and the owner takes their turn. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's not right. You know, but yeah, you repeat until the bag is empty. You just do it all over again at the end of combat. During combat, you can do 2 actions. These cannot be the same action repeated. You cannot attack twice, move twice, armor art twice, etc. You can't do anything twice. So you have 2 actions. Moving is an action, armor arts is an action, weapon arts is an action, doing a thing is an action, and attacking is an action. You do get 2 actions.
So this initiative, because this is not the way initiative is done in Into the Odd, right?
Right.
It's basically like Troika stack, but in the Troika stack, there's like an end of round token. So technically, you could draw that like the third thing and the round's just over, and you just do it again. So this is kind of like Troika. I think maybe, it's basically exactly the same thing, but no end of round token. You literally just go until the bag is empty, throw it back in, and start again, which is interesting because monsters later have an initiative score, which I assume means if their initiative is 2, you throw 2 tokens in, and the monster gets 2 turns in a round. Yeah, which is crazy. So
yeah, there's the monsters at the end of this are fairly intense. Yeah, this is not a walk in the park, y'all.
You done did a dead
here.
It's crazy.
The big thing about this game is that like there are no low-level monsters. Like hunting a monster in this game is an epic occasion. Like it is a generational story occasion. Cool. Attack. You just like Into the Odd, you just roll damage. The monsters are huge, and there's very little chance that you, a godling, are going to miss your attack on this massive monster. Defense. Unless self-inflicted, subtract the armor value from damage and reduce the remaining hit points. All excess hurts strength. Once again, just like Into the Odd. Damage if your strength reaches 0, will check or pass out. If it's less than 0, you gain a random fatal injury on page 9. The same applies to will damage, but instead you gain a mental trauma. Hitting 0 or less dex causes immediate unconsciousness. So there are physical and mental traumas. So if you get below 0 on strength, or you get a physical trauma, you keep it. Not all the fatal injuries I think are actually like fatal, but they are very serious. And then for the will, you get some mental trauma. If you have 3 injuries or traumas or max negative stat, you're dead. You die. So don't get 3 injuries because you're fucking dead.
It's not hard to get 3 injuries too, because there's a lot of like there's monsters that's literally just like really do an injury. Yep. Yeah. Yep. The odds of you living like through multiple generations is really incredibly small.
Yeah, your characters are going to die.
A lot.
Which is cool. It's very cool. It really pushes this whole like, you're your son now. You know, you're your daughter now. Oh, you have a son or daughter? Well, I guess one of the cousins is going to come up. You know,
should have bred.
I got to figure out a way to track. I think I'm just going to create like a Google sheet to like track family trees on this. Because you have to track family trees.
Dude, if you just gave like a character sheet to somebody that just had like a mass family tree, they could just fill in kind of as they go. Or just like series of circles. Because you don't have to fill in every circle. You just like write the names and then start doing like your things. Like you could just have rows of circles and then do your own things.
Yeah, but I believe that you can attempt to have a child more than once. So what if you have 2 kids? Or I think you can roll twins as well. And then that one kid is not your heir, but then goes off and you marry them off for a political reason and they have their own family. It's very cool.
There's a section soon that talks about how unlikely it is that you'll actually successfully have a regular kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's like 50-50 that like they're okay, maybe.
Yeah, they might be kind of messed up, but we'll get there. Let's go to recovery, which is going to be our next page. Recovery. Sleeping heals D6 strength. Herbs and medicine heal more. All spent dex and hit points return after a short rest. Pleasures and luxuries heal will slowly. So basically, you get D6 strength back by resting. So that's not going to be all your strength, which makes a lot of sense. You get a little bit better. Hit points come back because, as we know from Into the Odd, hit points are kind of like you're catching your breath, right? And then Dex also returns. And then I like the fact that will, like, you need to, have luxuries or pleasures to like make you like return your mental status to regular.
There's definitely a lot of getting down in this game.
Yeah. So medicine, really? You can see here. So we'll talk about TLs later. It stands for tech level. And there are several tech levels and there's several steps in between. At tech level 1, which is going to be like your caveman, essentially, you get bags of herbs that heal 1 strength flat. Tech level 4, you get a medicine box that heals D4 strength. And tech level 5, first aid kit D6. So they're never really that much. It's hard to live here. All medicine takes a minute to apply and heals -1 if self-applied. So the bag of herbs will not heal you if you use it on yourself. Someone else has got to do it for you. Diseases. When you first introduce a disease or introduced to a disease, you must strength check or be taken by it. From then, you will no longer roll to rid yourself. Each disease has its own cure and maladies and is up to you to find. And you can leave this really open and you can make a bunch of custom diseases for this. It's pretty brutal, honestly. It's a pretty brutal mechanic.
Every other page, I was like, this is brutal. Holy shit.
Oh, you're like, fuck. Yeah. I hate my players. Cool. Statuses. Being stunned causes you to lose your next turn. Poison harms you each turn when engaged in combat. Otherwise, it only causes damage every hour on a failed strength check. So being stunned, I love this because it's very simple and stripped down. Yeah, you're stunned. You're not going to move next round. Oh, you're poisoned. Every round of combat, you'll take damage because you're in combat. You're moving around. You're defending yourself. You're attacking. When you're out of combat, you're not moving around as much. So it only is every hour, and you have the ability to make a strength check to resist it. I think that's great. Drinking, because why would we not have drinking mechanics? Tech levels 2 and 1. Drinks heal 2 strength and 1 will. It makes sense. Drinking beer is enjoyable. It's a luxury with heal will. Tech level 4 through 3, or 4 and 3. Spirits heal 3 strength and 1 will, and have a 1 in 4 chance to cure poison. You can down a bottle in 2 actions. So like in higher tech levels, if you're poisoned, you can down a bottle of vodka, get your good vodka, and then you could be healed from your poison potentially. Intoxication. Each time you down a drink, you take D6 dex damage. Intoxication dissipates slowly over the course of the next 12 hours. So you can get drunk in this game, which is fantastic. The armory. So this is one of those portions of the game that is fantastic because it says it's the first, but like the meta goal of this game is to grow your civilization. And then, it says that your players are probably going to have the goal of getting really cool weapons or tools. And that is a thing that this totally allows you to do. Each melee weapon is composed of 3 pieces: a handle, which is called part A, a link, which is part B, and then the lethal end, represented by the damage dice. And putting together a weapon stacks all passives and allows you to use weapon art at will according to the combat rules. On the armor side, your character can wear a chest piece, a helmet, and a single accessory. Any more would be too bulky for adventure. Finally, if you wield a one-handed weapon, you can hold an offhand item. This is usually a torch. It could be a shield, a paring knife, or even a fully fledged weapon if ambidextrous, which is one of the traits that you can have. So range, by default, weapons can hit 5 feet away. Obviously, if you're holding a sword, you can only really hit who is next to you. Defensive arts that avoid an incoming attack cannot be used against an attack with dex checks. So you can dodge, but there's kind of a limitation to it. It's kind of like Sekiro, like you're not really meant to be dodging around. You're kind of meant to be going face in. Counterattack, as above, but allows a free attack against your attacker. So if we'll go over free action and then react and then the little square as well. Free action, arts that can be done at any time, even outside of your turn. React, arts that can be done only on can only be done on a turn when specific conditions are met. And the little box, the little square. The little square represents the amount of dex that you must spend to engage that art. So all of these little weapon parts will have like a little thing next to them. That's how you do. So below we have these TL00, which is the technology level 0. Sorry, that's actually the caveman one where you have no tech. And here are all like how their potential laid out weapon parts and a couple weapon choices. So we'll go over a couple. The leather grip has an art that costs 2 dex, and you attack with +2 damage. If we go down, let's look at the weapon actually. Bone spear. It's a D6 spear. It's 2-handed. For 2 dex, you can charge 3 speed forward, which I guess 3 squares forward, with +1 damage. So there's a couple of examples of weapon parts, which you'll have to like make a lot yourself and make custom weapons, which you can do by like people like kill these beasts and take parts of them away and make from these gigantic creatures that they're going to end up fighting, make these custom legendary weapons from the skin of their monsters that they slay. Shit's cool. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally like the whole... No, that's literally like the whole thing. Like when you get to the monster section, literally a whole page is just your loot that you get from the freaking, and you have to actually roll to see what you get. So it's just, I love this part. Yeah. So I kind of wish that mentions of the monsters were a little bit higher, and like really the occasions the beast take, because it's a really great opening when we get to the beast section, but like fighting beasts is what you guys do. You go out and you fight these beasts and then you create stuff from their corpses, and it's totally fantastic. And you can see right now, like there is a technology level, and that dictates what kind of stuff that you get and what is appropriate for your level. It's kind of open-ended, but you understand, like if you are a caveman, you're working with leather and you are working with bone and you're working with sticks, and that is the height of your technology. There is a section that goes through technology level by level and gives you a better, clear guidelines. But when you're creating weapon parts for your players, this is what you're going to go through. As we can see right next to it is technology level 2.2. You have blood metal hilt, a metal sword. It starts to become more. You're in that Iron Age. Do we want to go through over any other weapons? Because there's also a whole other page that shows us tech levels 3, 3, 4, 4, and 5, 5. No, it's just, I mean, the 2 is blood metal, 3 is deep metal, which is better. 4 gets to like easy, like low level guns, and 5 gets to like repeating rifles and 6 shooters. Yeah. So it's like you said, it increases by technology, and you'll go over the tech levels and how they advance, in a different section.
What's great about that is that it ends at tech level 5.5, and I think that is where they mean the game to end. But if you really want to, you can hack this and make it tech level 6. Very easily. If you want this game to keep going.
Well, what I like about it too. Sorry, real quick. What I like about it too is because you have to actually put all these things together to make a weapon. So you have to find the pieces.
Yeah.
So like for example, in the deep metal section, you get the deep metal hilt. To make a weapon, you have to have the hilt, which is part A, you have to have the guard, which is part B, and then you pick something to attach it to. So if you pick dagger, that's part, that's the actual blade. And then you get all of the parts from the hilt, which is like +1 damage and some other stuff. You get the guard, which is +2 damage and some other stuff. And then you get the blade itself, which is like an additional like +1 to counter. So as you put the things together, you can actually mix and match your like loadout basically just in like the freaking weapon you're holding. And I love that. I just wish there were more options.
Yeah, I think the point is, and I kind of felt like that going through you, but I think the point is to create your own options in a situation. And I do wish that there were a few more. I do like that there's an example because pretty much all they give us, there's one part A in all these sections, one part A, one part B, and then a few blades. And then I think there's some armor in some of them as well. But I think this is a chance for you to really flex your creativity and give your character something that's based on like maybe what they kind of want to do in the first place, you know?
Absolutely.
Once your characters figure out who they are. Next is fatal injuries. So we said that you roll a d20 on fatal injuries. Would you like to roll and read what you're what you get? I'm gonna roll on mental trauma actually while you're doing that.
Oh, I got number 7. It is a ruptured lung. You lose 1 speed permanently.
Holy fuck! Yeah. Permanently.
So
everyone, you can only move 4 squares now. Well, everyone else can move 5. That fucking sucks. Yeah. Okay, I rolled a mental trauma and I got a 7. Hemophobia.
7.
Nice. Blood makes you curdle. Whenever you see an ally or yourself bleed, you are knocked down. That fucking sucks.
Dude, there's some other ones that are so good on here. There's a dismembered is a couple, so you could literally, well, the 2 dismembers, there's one for the arm, because each section is broken into 4. So like 1 through 4 is the head, 5 through 8 is the chest. Then it's like arms, torso, and legs as you go down through each 5 sections. So dismembered in leg and arm section means you literally, I love number 12. It's gone, chief. Stunned and knocked down. The little the stuff that Sophia does throughout the entire thing, these little kind of just like, it's gone, chief, or like fuck you, like this is the page for you peasant
jokes.
Oh my god, really it's so good. But one of the other ones that I really liked besides head explodes is internal bleeding, number 13. You have a 1 in 10 chance to die every day for the next week. So basically wake up, roll a d10. If you roll a 1, you just die from internal bleeding. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a dick move. For mental traumas, I think another one that I like, honestly, number 1. Number 1 is such a fucking dark one. It is auto cannibalism. You must eat at least an ounce of yourself per day. The fuck?
Yum. That it says it right at the end. This is another thing that I love right at the end. Yum. You have to eat part of yourself per day. Yum. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, you were making a party of like really fucked up. Like at a certain point, after a couple battles, like you guys are going to be fucked. You're going to be terrible monster demigod people.
Yeah. Dude, this game, as I was reading this, it reminded me of like, it's kind of like Merkborg and Red Giant. Like not mechanics wise, but just Merkborg and Red Giant, like all wrapped in with like a healthy dose of like fuck you in it. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
Like,
yeah, I super agree.
Because Merkborg has that kind of, I love Merkborg to death, but it has that kind of like almost like Gonzo dark metalness to it. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit over the top with the right amount. This isn't like over the top at all. It's literally just like,
no, this is brutal. This is not like
brutal.
I do like that Merkborg is Gonzo. It can be ridiculous. Like it almost becomes a joke at how dark it is. And I love that. I think that type of humor works really well in those. And I think this game is amazing, but you definitely would have to play it with a very specific group of like you and I could definitely play it. But actually, I'm going to tell you right now that there's no one that I play with in the DFW right now that I could play this game with. Actually, there's one. But yeah, you have to be very specific with your group.
Yeah, we'll have to play it a couple times. I think Jason would be down for that. So we got at least
would do really good with this. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just have to find some other fucked up assholes and we'll fucking play this game. I'll tell you what.
So we have this good piece of artwork, and we've kind of been going through and not really talking about artwork because I'm kind of still waking up and I'm the one steering the ship. But we've had these like in the weapons, we have the images of the weapons, and the fatal injuries. And my girlfriend's next to me and she just smirked at me because I'm a dumb sleepy boy. Fatal injuries. We had the guy hanging in the middle of the page. And it's got this really great red and black the entire time. And it's got these lines and these sections, and nothing's hard to read. Like, it looks so good. It's very easy to read. They kept the colors stripped down enough to like really reinforce, like, you're in the dark in this. There is no sun. Everything is like in reference to the shadows. And I love it. And next we have this like collage of these rulers' faces. Actually, my background image didn't come out great today. But like we have this collage of like rulers, this guy getting stabbed in his bed, skulls, like very referential to like it's a person growing up and I guess going through like because the next page is gonna be life steps.
Well, these are the 5 life steps right here. You got the kid, you got the teenager, you got the adult, then you got the old person. And so it's the same person going
somebody in their bed.
Yeah. You got the person going through each of the life steps. So it's the same person if you look at the eyes and stuff like all the way through. So
yeah, totally. Very cool. Life steps. So a really interesting mechanic of this game is life steps. Like this takes place through an entire life, through multiple entire lives, actually. I'm going to actually read, you return from the dark, corpse of exhaustion, hate in tow. Corpse of exhausting, hate in tow. So like with the corpse of this gigantic dark monster behind you, you return from your expedition in the dark. Now your people call to you instead of violence, leadership. They want you to lead now. Now you're done killing, you're in a place to lead. They plead for the light of the god kings to guide them. You take seat upon your throne and live a life of simplicity as the quiet years fall as fast as your hair. So half your job as a god king is slaying beasts of the dark. The other half is ruling your lands and expanding your domain. This is done in a multi-step process known as the life step. Once all players are ready to abandon the active play and advance time further, follow along. So your characters go on these expeditions, actually very much like Into the Odd. You go on an expedition and you kill a monster and you come back, and that's half the game. The other half of the game is that you're going to go through the step-by-step process, which is very easy to follow along with. It's literally step-by-step. And you rule your kingdom. You expand your kingdom. You expand your family, and it's fantastic. So step number 1, once you're done with active play and you've switched to life step play, you're going to age up every character along the 5 life stages, page 13. You are in charge of keeping track of your characters and your kingdom, not the DM. That's right. If you've got vassals and you have characters, you know what? You keep up with them. The DM is doing other stuff, and I love that. Okay. 1A, if a character passes from elder to death, create an heirloom, page 14, so if you go over that, if possible, and then choose a descendant to begin to play as. Yeah, so those stuff you get, the weapons you make and like the things you get from adventuring, those are heirlooms to your future family, you know? That's great as well. 2, if your character is not aging from infant to child or elder to death, so basically if your character is a young adult or an adult, you're going to choose a downtime activity, which we'll get to in page 15, and you'll gain its passive effect. Each downtime activity has a passive, then you roll a d8 and gets active effect. 3, any monuments or mercantile districts you gain or you control generate power, which is the resource for inactive play. It's called power. 4, now spend your power on any one option on the power list. You may also create a monument now following the rules on the same page, page 19. Page 5, advance your tech step by 1, moving to a new era if applicable. And we'll go over that as well. When you are getting used to the life step, you may need to take turns to examine each step in detail, but once everyone has a solid grasp on the mechanics, all players should go at the same time, sorting each step out themselves, which is fantastic. It is kind of a complicated mode of play. Not complicated, it's very step intensive. So once your players all have them down, they really should be acting by themselves. Additionally, many of these steps involve role-playing or intimate in-character moments between players. So long as you have the time, zooming in and playing out the drama is not only suggested, but heavily encouraged. Very, very cool. So you have these life steps. They can be done very automated, but if you have the moments where it's like, oh yeah, the characters are going to interact, or they want to play out like the very story, like narrative driven part, let them, because that's like you can create this like generational drama. And that's really fantastic. And that's a great point, Ryan. Actually, I think I'm going to hand it off to you for the next part, which I think is life stages.
Yeah. So with the life steps and the stages, your age is abstracted in any of these 5 stages: infant, child, young adult, adult, and elder. For the most part, as Hunter just said, there are things you do except when you're a baby or you're old. When you're an infant, you are unplayably useless. I love
babies
that.
can't go to war, y'all.
Yep. If you're a child, you roll a disadvantage on all checks. Makes sense. Young adult and adult have no issues, and if you're an elder, you lose D4 in every stat. I love how simple that is and how it equates really well to aging, like just in general. Genetics is cool. You transition from a young adult to an adult, you have the chance to breed, and you roll a D6. Why don't you roll me a D6?
Oh, dude, I would love to roll a D6.
Because these are great.
A 3.
So you have complications. The baby suffers a random injury or trauma. Your baby did not come out well. Number 1 is a tragic delivery. The mother dies, but the baby survives. Number 2 is a difficult pregnancy. The baby is lost. Number 4 and 5, you bred just fine. And number 6, you get twins. So really half, 1 through 3.
Dude, you have 50% chance of being
times.
Okay. Like we said earlier.
Yeah. Well, even in that, only 1, like the mother dies, but the baby survives, which, I mean, if you are a god king and your point is to breed, I guess it depends on how much you care about your wife, but it's really cool. I like it. If successful, the new infant stats are averaged between the parents, and then you roll 2d4s. And I believe in an earlier section, or maybe it's in a later section, when you breed, your genetic traits, I think that's what it was, are mixed together and passed to your baby.
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever
I will
you
say
breed,
that is one thing about this game is that as we're going through, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I mentioned this in the previous section. It's not really close to or easy to necessarily get back to and get to the section. And that may be my biggest gripe about this book. And that might be actually my only gripe about this book.
I completely agree with that. There were plenty of times where I'm like, wait, what part is this? Like what? Oh yeah, there's another section a little bit farther back. So basically when you have a baby and it works, you get your parents' genetic traits. You get to average all of your parent scores together. You roll 2d4, subtract the second d4 from the first. The remaining number, negative or positive, is added onto the stat with the absolute highest you can be is 18. The lowest at 3. You do this for all 3 stats. Good times with that. There are some tables. Why don't you roll me a d50? Or a d100. Just do a d100.
I'm going to do a d100, bro.
Do it.
87.
So that would be a 37. So your name is Gris. And then do a d12 too.
6.
So Grismar. You are Grismar.
Grismar!
And these are hateful names for your spawn. I just love this.
Hateful name for your spawn. Such a fucking...
There's so much just... I don't want to say it like sassiness, because it's not. It's like a brutal fuck you all the way through the game, and I love it so much.
And there's very much a wit to this game. Like, it's a very brutal fuck you wit. I am sure that this table... because this is it. What sounds like this is Sophia Tinney's like home game that they homebrewed and then put together into a full game. And this has to be the funniest table of fuckers ever, because I bet they were I bet it was hilarious.
Heirlooms are really cool. We talked about this before. When you gather up weapons that you defeat beasts from, you can create an heirloom, and I think that's one of the steps you could do in the life steps. And basically,
as you die.
Oh yeah, of course, despite your ample supply of self-fellation, you will sadly never see yourself amongst them. That is, until you are dead. Yeah, I love it. Basically, when you die, you can find the most influential and legendary event performed by your pretty corpse. Within that event, find an object vital to the great historical story. So basically, when your character inevitably dies, you find the coolest thing that they did, and you find something within that, and you turn it into a cool object. So is it a book? Is it the weapon you used? Is something like that? Whatever it is, you can turn it into an heirloom or a monument or something like that. So the one example is the talon plunged into your forefather's chest, ending the Civil War on the spot. Gives D6 bonus damage to slaying other blood relatives, because when you make an heirloom, it gets assigned a legendary ability based on what you used it for. So if you used it to kill your forefather, it now has bonus damage to killing your blood relatives. Love it. Absolutely love it.
What's the other? I think there's another example of the book.
There's 3. The book consummating the marriage, then formation of the strongest dual-player empire known to man, can be wielded and read from the chain. 2 things can be wielded and read from to chain 2 things instantly for D6 turns. So if you read from the book, 2 things become chained together because it's a book about the marriage.
Right.
It's great. It's so good. This is such a cool mechanic to create legendary items in the game that create more story.
Cool mechanic.
Yeah.
And like, I like how open ended it is, man. It's like, oh yeah, we don't care what the like. It could do fucking anything, you know, like within reason. Like you're not gonna be super invincible in this game because it doesn't want you to. Yeah, you can chain a thing together.
But I like how the first time you do it, the most damage it can really do, or basically the thing that it can do has a D6 limit. But like if your heirloom is then used by your son, who also uses it for a cool thing, it gets more. Then you get like 2d6 whatever. And then the section at the bottom that says most of them are only usable once per day, unless the effect is like a passive kind of thing or whatever. But it's all collaborative, and then at the end it's just the DM has final say, otherwise you should all together come up with this cool item. So yeah. Then it moves into, so this is another gripe that I have with the book, is because it doesn't really have a lot of section headers.
No, does not have section headers. You're just there.
Drives me nuts. It's the only thing I can say, because now the only way it says we're on page 15. So in a previous section, it says that there's downtime activities on page 15. Right. So I know because of that, but it didn't say downtime activities on the top of this page. Seriously, one of the only things, as you said, that bugs me. It's really difficult to know, because once we got to I thought the Judases were counselors, but they're not. They're Judases, but it never says the Judases.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. It's weird because it's kind of on and off, because some of the area sections do definitely have headers, and then you do have a lot of like where it just drops off right here, where it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Where are we?
So these are the four downtime activities. There's cultural, familial, martial, and rulership, and you get a passive on each one. And this is kind of the way to do a little bit of advancement, like character advancement. So, for example,
pick one to run through, and I'll pick another one to run through.
Yeah, I'll go with martial. Great piece of art at the top here. So you spend your time training your body and mind in the art of battle, high stakes duels, tactical drills, plain old exercise. You did it all, and then you roll a d8, and that's what you get for your downtime activities. And I rolled a 6, so I led an expedition. I choose a beast. Choose a beast you have killed previously. You hunted it again. Gain all of its loot for yourself. That's what you just get. All of the loot from a beast as a downtime activity.
Good, seriously. Yep. Actually,
so on my downtime, on my downtime, I just went out and killed something, badass beast, and I got all of its shit.
And you got all the loot again. You got everything you would have gotten from killing a beast. Wow. That's
by
actually
myself,
a really,
not
really
split.
Good one. Yeah.
So good.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do rulership, which is actually right next to it. Another really great art piece. It's very simple, but evocative. It's just throne, you know? You spend your time ruling from an ivory tower of gods. It is, of course, your divine duty to keep the low bloods in line while breaking the dark. I gotta keep them low bloods in line. I mean, they're only like 5 feet tall. I'm only twice their height. So you garner prestige and respect. You gain D4 power. And then I just clicked away from my dice roller. I rolled a 2.
I also, real quick, I forgot the passive. Battle Grit, Hardened Spirit, gain plus D6 HP permanently for the martial thing.
Yeah. So you have more HP. So good. This is a really good game. This is a very good game. It sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, 2. I roll a 2 on rulership. A masterwork piece is crafted for you, increasing a weapon's damage by 1. The bonus is lost if it is destroyed or taken apart. So you get like a master weapon, and its damage is increased by 1. I would consider, I don't know, I have to play it, but I would consider like letting somebody increase their damage die size for a weapon instead of just giving a +1. Maybe not. That might be too powerful, actually.
I guess that depends. So, well, D4, D6, D8, and you start with like D4 weapons. So if you get D4 +1, like it's a quarter extra damage at low level. Yeah,
that's very true. So,
cool. I mean, it's your table, and the monsters are insane.
The monsters are really brutal.
So just an extra, just going from a D6 to a D8, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
I think you'll need it.
Yeah, you might.
Power. My favorite part on this next page is this whole section is about gaining power as the God King. Across the top, there's a line that says, right at the very tip top of the page in little letters, it says, "This text assumes you are a god blood. If not, find a different page to read gutter trash." I love this so
Good
much.
times. Good times.
So power. All trading, diplomacy, and development in kingdoms is measured in raw prestige and influence, known simply as power. But what is power without the land to exert it? All houses begin with humble, single hex settlements with no specialty. Through the expenditure of power, you will eventually evolve basic settlements and hexes, districts, culture, nations, everything. The way to gain power, first and foremost, is to steal it from the dark by slaying beasts. Even if it's one you've slain before, it bestows 10 power to your coffers of hubris. The last person to finish the beast grabs particular attention of the dark, gaining an additional 5 power.
You get bonus XP for doing the last hit, you know, like that's basically what they're saying. It's like, yeah, you get 10 power for killing it, but if you're the person who lands the final blow, you get fucking 20 power, bro.
I don't think we've skipped over this yet, but even when you first, I think we'll get to it in a little bit, but when you first start the game, you're all godbloods, but you didn't do shit yet. Right. And because there's a god king amongst the players, like one person who rules everything. The first person to kill a monster gets to be god king. Yeah, pretty badass. The other way to gain power is more cowardly. It's the construction of monuments. There's structures and locales of great historical legend that can be built once per ruler, can only be built on top of settlements as districts, and provide 1 power every life step. So an example can include a court built upon the legendary final dueling ground from Great War of God Kings, or the first road to cross the Marble Ravines. Basically, you get 1 point per monument per life step that you build in your kingdom. Pretty badass. I like that. Obviously, considering you get, if you're the last person that hits Creature of the Dark, you get 15 power. Right. But you're kingdom building across multiple steps. So if you actually be able to build like a huge hex, it's got like 10 monuments in it, boom, 10 power every time you have to advance your life step. So it's pretty badass.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, you can, the kingdom building aspect of this, like I'm so stoked for the active play. The way I could see this playing out with my group is that, you know, if I made a group, is that we'll do active play together in person, and in this inactive play step, we can do text-based over like Discord or something, you know?
Oh yeah, that'd be sick. That's a great way to do between sessions, especially if you don't want to spend a whole session doing this part. Because you can even RP within the Discord channel to play it all out, RP. Which is badass. So you can spend power to do a bunch of different things. There's 1 through 8 power that you can spend, but it's like 1 and then a bunch of 3s and some 5s and some 8s. But you can like seek out a counselor, like a spy master, steward, or general, and a random one will show up, and we'll get to counselors later.
Counselors later.
Oh yeah. Can only be built upon unclaimed land. So you have to spend power to basically expand your hexes for your settlement, is what I assume from this. And then different districts within your within your empire give you different things. So if you build a luxury district that costs 3 powers, like gardens, palaces, things like that, it gives you +1 light dice to its owner, and we'll get to light. All district must be placed on settlements replacing it. You can do a worship district, a workshop district, a border district, a military district, a religious district, or a mercantile district, which is the most expensive. It's 8 power, and it gives you 1 power each life step. So I really like how, like you said, the active play gives you power, and then your inactive play, like world building aspect, lets you generate the quote unquote cowardly power of the mercantile districts and the monuments and stuff like that.
Kingdom expansion.
The micro play and macro play in this game are so well done. I really enjoy it.
I wish that there were a couple of examples of play, because I do have questions about how this looks for a party of adventurers. They're kind of at odds with each other in a political way. I mean, I guess they're just all royal families going out to kill something together. Also, there's a little point at the end of the power section after you scroll up. It's really small. It's right after the mercantile district. It says, additionally, the DM may ask for power to be spent on political actions, building spy networks, altering landscapes, erecting minor improvements, or even sabotaging districts. So they give you a list of things you can do, but also the DM at any point in time can be like, okay, yeah, you can build a spy network and know what other people are doing, but it's going to cost you a couple power.
That kind of gives you that freedom to, that kind of gives you that freedom to when you're doing your RP, if you want to do stuff beyond this, that DM has a license to just be like, sure, I'll let you do that. I'm going to say it's 2 power.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty sick. I really like that a lot.
I'll let you build a fucking spy network, you know, like that sounds sick.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't especially if you can get a spy master counselor. So why wouldn't you be able to build a spy network too? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything in the book outside of like some roll table things is red, white, and black, and I love it. And like you said, it really gives you that vibe of, first of all, it's my favorite colors. But it gives you that vibe of the fact that, and again, because we haven't really gone over this part, it's later in the book, I think. So we're getting through this whole section, 19 pages in. But the world is dark. There is no light. You literally, like, there's no sun. There's no nothing. It says
that in the first section that I kind of read through is there's no sun.
Yeah. Right.
It might go over it in detail in another section as well, though.
Yeah, I think it talks about like when you actually what actually being like a TL1 campaign starts as is like a couple dudes and a torch, and that's it. But I love this page 20, where, like I said, almost every big thing, like sometimes there's been smaller words in different colors, but it's all black, white, and red. And then the section that talks about light is the only big chunk of like yellow or anything else in the game. And it makes sense because it's light. It's literally the light fighting off the darkness when almost all the pages are black. And I love it so much. Light is mankind's only defense against the dark. And that's you, powered by the light burning within us all. This is the value of common man. Yeah. The first bloodline to fell a beast is our God King and our savior. They can directly use the collective power of man, gaining light dice equivalent to half their land. So that's where we get to the part where the first godling to kill a creature is the God King. To kill a creature.
Yeah. You're the Good God luck. King now.
Yeah. Gaining light dice equivalent to half their land. These D6s can be expended to perform feats beyond human abilities. The golden effects of the light dice should be discussed with the DM. I love this part. You use the sum of the dice rolled in some situations and the number of dice chosen invested in another. So, for example, all powers enhance your existing human body. Light can never create matter or change that outside of the God King's body. So you can render the skin in molten gold to block a dice amount of damage for the sum amount of minutes.
Right.
So if you have 5d6, which would be 30, you can do 5 damage, or you block 5 damage for 30 minutes. Or I guess you could roll it, you roll the d6s, or you punch a beast for some damage. So if you roll and you get, 27, you can just use all your light dice to punch a beast for 27 damage. Really, really cool examples.
Very cool. It's also, once again, it's like another really open-ended thing. Like your player can be like, yeah, I'm going to use my light dice to do X for Y time. And like, I like how there's guidelines to this, but there's also just like, you kind of just your players are going to do what they want to do and explain it to you within this like very loose framework.
Yeah, I love it. And they do a good job. Yeah. So at the end it says, yet our protector, our God King, is not immortal. He can and will die like the rest of us. When this happens, the one with the highest power takes the mantle. And there is, of course, a bloody way to steal the power of man, which basically straight up says you could also just murder him. Any hand to take the God King's life takes his light, perhaps even the hand of the dark. So it literally straight up says, like, if you're the first one to kill a monster, you get to be the God King, and then you get this light that makes you more badass than pretty much everyone else. Yeah. And then it not even implies, it explicitly says, if you murder the God King, you get to be the God King and you get their light. Because if they die, I believe there's a section later that says if they die, the light gets passed down to their offspring. But if you murder them, you get the light. Like,
But also, if the dark murders them, the dark.
Oh, that's right. The dark gets the light. Yeah, I can imagine. Again, you have to play with a really specific group of people because the political intrigue, backstabbing, and stuff like that, I think would really get to some people. Because I would murder the fuck out of you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I would kill all of y'all. And that's the thing is like you have to play with a group that has a good separation between their player character's ego and their own. Because that's where I see the biggest hang up here is that somebody's going to have their feelings hurt because they are unable to disconnect from their player character. Because your player character is not you. And I love you, Ryan, but let me tell you that if you were the God King, I would 100% stab you in the back.
I would hope. Yeah, I would hope so. I would be so mad in character and so proud out of character if you just murdered the shit out of me. That's
what I'm saying. Like, the table that developed this game, like they must be a fucking awesome table to play with. You know?
Oh, I mean,
reads like,
in the nicest way I can say it, no doubt they got to be a bunch of fucking assholes too.
Oh, I'll say that absolutely. Right now. Oh, they're a bunch of chuckle fuck dickholes, Like I would definitely play at this table. Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. So
Shout
tech. What's up?
You said shout out?
Oh yeah, shout out. It's Sophia Tinney. Like shout out her because this is very obviously like, you know, her and her friends have been playing this Into the Odd Hack, and they've been getting it down, and they made something that's really cool, and it looks like it plays really well. And while we're going to have some minor complaints about it, like this is a very quality game. Like this is a very good game. You know, this is good. Okay, cool. Tech. Okay, cool. The best part. I love the tech part. Maybe not the best part, but one of the best parts. The tech ladder is divided into 5 overarching eras and several smaller steps. Each life step advances the player down the ladder of tech advancement by the single step, the smaller step. When they reach the highest step of their era, they move to the first step of the next era. Makes a lot of sense. Time moves forward, y'all. I don't know if you've caught how time works, but it's linear. It moves forward. Each era has its own developments, but the general intricacies of progress are lost on the player characters because they're god kings and they're godlings. They have no time to think about the technology that lesser men are making. They're hunting creatures in the dark. The evolution of plows and the creation of stained glass is lost in godlike kings and queens above all. The goal of the tech levels is to add flavor and give an idea of what your society looks like. The cities and fields should reflect new tech, even if you and your characters are unaffected by it. So we have the first step, level 1, TL1 is going to be Stone Age. Also, real quick thing here. I don't think it ever says that TL is tech level or tech ladder. Like it puts TL on a bunch of stuff, but I don't see where it's pointing out as like TL means this.
Oh yeah. I'm going to tell you straight up. I could not find what TL meant, so I assumed it meant timeline. And that was just timeline step 1, timeline step 2.
I didn't either for a while. And then I read the tech part again, and I was like, oh, it must mean like tech level or tech ladder step.
Yeah. Well, since it does like tech ladder, so it's got to be that.
The Stone Age was the first one, obviously prehistory. Your people use wooden and stone tools. Early domestication and agriculture begins. You know how cavemen are. You very well remember those cavemen. You
know those cavemen.
Religion and myth rule. Stories and the wheel are your only advancements. I'm actually going to go through each level, and then real quick we'll just. Oh, you are not in the spread. Never mind. We'll go through all this and then we'll do the next. Because in the spread, they're lined up where it's the tech level and the like 7 steps of that level next to it. The first one. So the first like block, the first 7 are the steps for the Stone Age. So the first one is the birth of fire, breaks the dark, and giving life to man. The second one is agricultural revolution, allows the building of the first settlements. So you cannot. I read that as you cannot build a settlement before TL 1-2 or 0-2. No, it's 1-2. 3 is domestication of livestock. 4 is the wheel is invented, along with some better tools. 5 is pottery and glass. 6 is sails and oars for rivers, specifically only for rivers. It's not for deep water. And then 7's oil lamps powered by vegetable oils and fat burn longer. So those are your basic steps of what is like essentially the Stone Age. After the Stone Age, we have the Metal Age, which is where blood metal weapons come in. We have blood metals used by the whole society, stronger weaponry, armor, revolutionized warfare. The first roads begin to appear, leading to real cities. This is where early sailing comes in, because we'll look at the map later, and the map is a continent, is an island. Actually, in Sophia Tinney's blog, she has tools for island hopping and for generating islands outside of the main continent, which is lit. We'll actually just go through the list and we won't worry about reading 1 through 7. We're kind of getting a good gist of it, or unless you're really enjoying it.
No. Well, when we talked about the weapons, it said like 1.1 and 2.2 and 3.3.
Right.
So specifically, that's what it means here.
Yeah.
So if you look at section 2.2, it says advanced furnaces rise hot enough to smelt blood metal. So literally, when you get to step 2, you still can't do blood metal. You have to get to 2.2. And the same thing with 3.3, 4.4, and 5.5. Yeah. Because you can't get repeating firearms until you're basically at the most modern technology. It's 5, step 5. Yeah. So
telegraphs. You only have 2 more steps after that. Which is cool. It's 2 more lifetimes of your character. Which the way this is played, like that could be like several sessions, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think at one point it says basically each step of the not the tech, but the life step advancement is roughly one session, is what they said.
Yeah.
So you can get from baby to an old dead person if you survive in 5 sessions, which I think is fucking awesome. Especially if you do like that kind of like in between RP session. Like
it's a lot of
you're
time.
basically
It's a lot of play.
Yeah. You're basically doing what amounts to roughly like 9 or 10 sessions, 5 in person and 4 to 5 out of person. That's a good time.
It really is. After the Metal Age, we have the Middle Ages. What you could consider a medieval era, defined by the introduction of deep metal, windmills, algebra, books and writing, and
deep.
castles. Deep metal, bro. That metal goes so deep.
So deep.
After that, we have the Age of Sail. This is the Renaissance. Ocean crossing vessels arrive. Gilded shores discovered. The earliest microscopes and telescopes find new worlds. The most basic clockwork machines astonish. Early muskets and printing press revolutionize everything. That I think the Age of Sail will be my favorite one to play in, honestly. Because you start having to deal with the printing press, which is the way of spreading information that might be anti-godling,
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you guess which one or two are going to be my favorite?
The Metal Age and the Middle Age.
Yeah, I think the Middle Age is probably about as far, like early Middle Age is about as far as I want to go. I think that's I'll just murder everyone after that and start over.
Yeah. And then the very last one's the Steam era. This is the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines power boats, land vehicles. You have like simple land vehicles, and maybe even more. My guys are gonna have airships because I'm a fucking weeby tech nerd like that, and I play a lot of Final Fantasy. Medicine discovers germ theory. Guns get better and commonplace. At the tail end, you can find telegraphs and other late 1800s inventions.
Yeah, like late Age of Sail and the entire Steam era is literally exactly what I don't like in my games. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I would love to see you start playing with one group through this. Like you start in this like Stone Age. You guys are in huts, and then by the end, like you have what is essentially the British Royal Palace, and like
you're literally
an ivory tower.
You can have trains and telegraphs and guns and medicine. Like that's just a cool concept. That you literally start the game as just like 4 dudes in the dark with a torch, and then by the end you're on a train, just like chilling with tea, or in a dirigible,
Okay. Deities and paganism. And I'm going to be honest, I've actually read this section the least.
Okay.
Yeah. Your frail wife delivers a broken, not that I didn't read it at all. Your frail wife delivers a broken child. The Mercy tramples your legs to a pulp. I think the Mercy is one of the beasts of the dark. The harvest comes late, delaying expansion. The goddess of fertility touches your wife, giving a strong child. The Mercy barely misses by an inch, thanks to Lord of Beasts. The divine soul of grasses and growth expand your village's farmstead. All of these miracles are the work of your nation's god. Each is unique, and their domain of influence must be distinguished by the great DM. Each god holds exclusive lordship over up to 3 domains. These come in the form of nouns like fertility, death, or conquest. Any roles that fall into their domain may be rolled by spending favor, which is another resource that I don't think we've touched on yet. Gods have an equal number of holy tenets and sacred taboos. You gain favor by performing significant rituals fulfilling a god's positive tenets. On the flip side, committing sins in the eyes of a god removes favor. Switching religions, regardless of favor, causes immediate loss of all favor from the old gods and pariah status. Finally, upon death, all favor is passed down to your chosen heir. So basically, you're going to create a god with your DM that has a couple of domains that they rule over, and they're going to have tenets and taboos, sins. And if at a certain point in your game, you're like, fuck, I don't want this god anymore. The sins are holding me back.
for doing something, you can switch gods, but you're a pariah past that point, and then you lose all favor that you might have had. And yeah, you can start from scratch, but it seems like you're working backwards. To
just
begin
make
a
it a
religion,
church.
Yeah,
Just do the Church of England. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't divorce. Fuck it. I'm not. I ain't part of your religion anymore. I got my own religion. Let's rewrite this Bible, guys.
Let's model ourselves after the British. They did so good with everything. They've been so great.
Yeah.
To begin, I mean, I live in the U.S., so maybe I shouldn't, throw stones. I live in a glass house. To begin a religion, you must first build a religious district to your fledgling lord. You then declare a single domain. It presides over 2 tenets, 2 taboos, and you gain 2 favors. So basically, you make the religious, you use your power in your non-active play step to make this district in a religious district. And then, you name your god, you give them a thing that they rule, and then 2 tenets that you follow, and then 2 taboos that you cannot do. To increase a god's power beyond a single domain, you must build more districts dedicated solely to them. The 2nd and 4th temple garners a new tenant. So the 2nd and the 4th. So the 3rd one does not get you a new tenant, but you need to build it to get another new tenant. And a new noun to be added as the god's domain. All chosen by their highest favored believer. Additionally, building religious districts grants the builder a point of favor. So you and another godling can have the same god, and you can both vie for creating new tenets for that god and new powers, but whoever has the most religious districts fastest is the one who's going to decide. Which I think is interesting. There's a lot of little interesting things you can really do to fuck over your buddies at the table in this game.
Oh yeah.
Finally, the head of the religion, whether decided via most temples, favor, or even blood, can at any time indict a sinner. This removes all of their favor and restricts gaining favor from the Lord going forward until lifted. So if you're the head of a religion for any reason, you can point and be like, you know what? I indict you as a sinner. And that person is just playing out of fucking luck.
I would do that. I would do that. Any godling that tries to hop onto my religion, sinner. That's how it works, right? That's how religion works. If I don't like you, I can just say that you're wrong.
That's exactly how religion works. The moment you disagree with somebody, you can call them a sinner. And then next we have another really cool piece of art. It is like a gigantic god, and we have our example gods. I'm going to read the great Grogan. Great Grogan. He's over nature and beasts. So he's a god of beasts. He's a giant pig in the sky, happy and jolly with red cheeks and a tail of a fox, seen in the countryside, talking to critters of the wood. Tenets. Treat hogs to luxury. See nature flourish and breathe. A hog must always be present in all. He's your pig god. You have to treat pigs well. You got to have them with you everywhere you go. Pig gods. Taboos. Never bring undue harm to an animal. No human may enter the temples of the hog. The sacred rivers stay untouched by the sails. So there are sacred rivers. You have a temple of hogs that no human can go into. That's a really good one. Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be, well, it says no undue harm. So
what's due harm?
Yeah, but needing to survive is due harm.
It depends on the god and the high priest, I guess. Whoever's got the most favor.
Yeah. So I really like that. And I also like that because that feels like a early prehistoric god. It's a hog with the tail of a fox that you find in the wild talking to other creatures that we worship as a god. Perfect. Fantastic.
Great. Yep.
War. I don't know if you hear the cat meowing, but war. When war is declared, place a single unit representing an army on your capital. And additional ones on each military district. Players then take turns using the combat initiative system, moving units. Each unit can be marched 1 hex a round, which is 1 full day, and 2 hexes if on a road or if on roads. So basically, when you and another character go to war, You start placing. It's very much like kind of reminds me of Risk. You place your little units around, and then you move them. Units cannot occupy allies' hexes, but may move through their allies. When moving units into an enemy-occupied territory, both rulers roll a d6. The lowest roller removes the unit from the game. If a unit possesses a player character, they instead roll a d8. If the battle takes place on a border district, you may also gain +2 to the roll. If both units are led by a player character, then the tie on the roll and tie on their roll, the God Bloods run into each other on the battlefield. A duel of kings takes place. The loser most likely ends up dead or captured. As a result, their unit is disbanded. So if you and another player character come across each other, it's a battle of the godlings. And you can choose, maybe you take him as a political prisoner, maybe you just kill them right there. At the start, at round start, which is dawn, reinforcements arrive. All sides place one unit on each of their military districts, an additional one on their capital. Stolen military districts do not contribute to their occupier until the war ends. So if you capture someone else's military district, it doesn't look like it generates them any more military power, but they also don't get anything else as long as you occupy.
Not in that war, but in the next war.
But next war, we can call the game here, but we're next game.
I love this whole thing because there's the micro part of like active play. There's a macro part of inactive play, but then you can throw risk in here too and literally be like, well, I declare war on you, and we're gonna have a whole session where we're literally just at war, basically doing there's war combat game.
And there's macro combat, just like there's micro and macro games.
It's crazy. It's so interesting, just like how many levels this shit goes,
Yeah, I agree. This is a very well thought out game. It's like, as Ryan and I joke about the fact that we rate games so high, but I think at the end of the day, what's actually happening is that we only read games that we're interested in playing. So like most stuff we read's good, or to one degree or another, but it's good. Followers. You can bring followers on your expedition equal to the number of hexes you control. Most of these men are much too weak to be of use in battle. A peasant bloodline lacks the spark of the God Kings, but you can still bring cooks, load carriers, alchemists, scholars, the thing that a king would take in their entourage out with them onto the field. A king doesn't carry his own swords. A king doesn't cook his own food. We have people for that. Thank you. If you still wish to bring soldiers into combat with a beast, you must first will save default 3 for each of them. Successful soldiers enter combat. So you have to if you bring soldiers into combat, they're such normal human cowards going against this dark, evil, massive monster that you have to will them up to enter combat with you. Peasant soldiers fight as a unit. What's up?
Oh no, just the reasons they won't go at the end are hysterical. So
peasant soldiers fight as a unit and all roll together. Each soldier has a 1 in 4 chance of hitting, dealing 1 damage on success. They can only take 1 point of damage before massacre. With spillover damage, other soldiers are upon their death. If they take 1 damage, they're gone. And if they take more than 1 damage, then each soldier in the unit takes that splash damage essentially. So really a beast and a single hit. No beast I think does just 1 damage. So they'll wipe out most of your soldiers. Your soldiers can help a little bit. You can never bring other family members into battle. They will always fail a will check. The blood of God Kings is lost in numbers. Reasons they won't go. You want to roll a d6?
I mean, whatever I roll, I also want to talk about number 6. I rolled a 6. I'm not even kidding. It's literally right there. I'll bring it on.
They're just a bitch, Yeah. They're just a little bitch. They won't go into combat.
That's not a joke. It literally just says they are just a bitch.
They're just a bitch. Superstition forbids them. Super lazy. Accursed rumors. They wish to stay with family. Religious reasons. and they're a bitch.
I can imagine, especially if there was like other people talking about this when they did all the reasons, they got through 5 of them and like, fuck, what's the last one? And someone literally just goes, oh, they're just a fucking bitch.
Oh, they
you
just
know
fucking
what I mean?
suck. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, perfect. They're just a bitch. Like, and we're moving on.
Yeah. So next we have just some travel stuff. I can type. Okay, cool. No, another section doesn't really have a header, but it kind of still refers to this like over like this war and travel supplies. Your king and queens are much too wealthy to worry about salted meat and picking berries. If you really want to make sure you have supplies available, just take a young murderable lad to carry the load. The only true rationing important will be that sweet rum. Yeah, don't worry about supplies. Just take some murderable young lad with you to carry your ship. Yeah, so basically you don't worry about supplies. You're a king. You're a queen. There are supplies. Yeah, Emily's taking a test next to me. She's like, murderable young lad. Overland movement. A party on foot can move 1 hex a day. When fully mounted on any proper load carrying creature, you can move 2 hexes a day. If you have a ride, tech level 5 or to tech ladder 5, train. Yes, a train. You can move 4 hexes. Moving on a late TL2, road gives an additional +1 hex movement in civilization. Trains don't get road benefits. Trains are fixed. And just in case y'all don't understand how trains work, they're fixed and they can only go from one place to another where there are train tracks. Ocean travel. TL1 boats can move 2 hexes. Later TL4 ocean-faring vessels can move up to 4. Even more advanced TL5 steam boats can move 6 hexes per day. Encounter rolls. They're encounter rolls. As you travel across the land, you will roll to see if you come against any of the denizens of the dark. Oh yeah, that's the one thing. Is by the way, unless you settle these regions, if you leave and come back, you're essentially re-exploring them, and so there's a chance of there being dark creatures there now. So just because you traveled there before does not create a static safe zone. Right. The dark evolves, it re-encroaches. Workshops. The interesting flora and fauna of the world are not just for sightseeing expedition. Workshop districts allow you to break down these natural resources in order to further develop your own medicines, poisons, and animal components. That's another thing you work with DM for. Really cool section. So lets you know what traveling looks like. And, the encounter tables are very interesting. They're for the DM, and we'll see them a little bit later on as they travel hexes. They're pretty cool.
Continuing the read through of Kingdoms, this is the Dark Master. So the DM in this game is Dark Master, not Dungeon Master, because as we know, WotC and all that stuff. So this entire section is a lot of lore. And a lot of advice for actually running the game, which is really important, which is a lot of stuff that we've talked about has been like, there's no answer for this, or it's like kind of open-ended, or it's hard to get to spots. A lot of the stuff is in here. But it says Dark Master, God is a fickle role to play. At one moment, you are punishing your sinners in fire, the other kissing babies' foreheads. And it says DMing is perhaps the hardest role in all the kingdoms. The players keep track of the blood, navigate court drama, and slice down beasts in the great shifting dark, but without a Dark Master moving the pieces around them, there'd be swinging misses forever. This is your role. So it goes through a bunch of different steps. Your job is to control the wild beasts, which are in these pages. Beyond the most basic duties, you also strive to make the player's domestic life as dramatically interesting as you can. You control their children, their partners, and it straight up says you're supposed to whine, scheme, betray, get in trouble, never stop demanding things. This is a nobility after all. So basically, as a DM, because the players are just their godlings, but they have these massive families they also keep track of too, you're supposed to be those NPCs in those families and just fuck with your players, because why not?
Also it's very not also, but it's very Game of Thrones. Like, if you want inspiration for how this should be, it's Game of Thrones, you know?
Yeah, but like the books and not the later seasons of the shitty show.
I still haven't watched it, so
yeah, just it's okay till the final season, maybe the last 2. So it says go a layer higher, look at the court, look at the mayors, look at the settlements, basically find all the drama you can and make this as drama and shitty as you can. Like, that's part of the game, is that giant fuck you that we talked about. It says dump the stew of chaos you brewed across borders, pushing players into hating each other and their frail but necessary alliances. And the struggles for power, land, and legacy between your players should provide enough narrative inspiration. But if you really need to shake things up, there's a trouble generator on page 35. And there are also the Judases we'll get to on page 33, which can cause chaos. This section here, the Origin of Light, I kind of wish this was more in the beginning. It's literally...
absolutely. Yeah. I wish this was way earlier. This is the setup for the game.
The only thing that I will say why it's okay as it is here is if I was going to run this game and my player had the book, I would tell them to stop before the Dark Master section, and there's nothing spoiled in the beginning part of it. So you could literally have them not know any of this before, but still have a character and know exactly how to play the game. Literally down to hex and war and everything, but have no concept of how this works. So Origin of Light. Man is a first of this world, hidden in the dark, grown out of the earth, puked out like a splinter. Wholly original, otherworldly alien. This prehistory is lost on them. Their youth permits them little understanding, roll or choose their roots. So you basically get 5 sections, or 4 sections, and it's kind of, it's just the origin of how everything starts. So the first one is you awaken.
Your starts,
It literally is the origin of light, so it's how it starts. But I thought for a second that it was by like, almost by TL or by life step, but it's not. It's just different ways you can start it.
Yeah.
The first one is you awaken as naked infantile primitives, held together as one. You wield the first flame built out of stick. You are the sapient beings, the first humanity. This is your story. And it basically says start at a random region in TL11, surrounded by a couple of low bloods.
Sorry, it says fearful low bloods.
Fearful low bloods. Yeah, you get 3 each, and 10 minutes out is a beast of the region. It's either Fury of the Woods, Crawl of the Shrublands, Smiler in the Mountains, Mercy in the High Grass, or Dance in the Flats. So you literally straight up tell your players, hey, you are in the dark, you have a torch, and you each have 3 low bloods with you that are scared shitless, and 10 minutes until a creature is upon you. Game starts, go. I love that. This is the one I would start with.
Yeah. It's a brutal start. All the other starts are like a touch easier, maybe. This is the start that's like, no, you're fucking naked in the woods and you have a club and there's a fucking monster coming right now.
Naked and afraid. Let's do it. And all you get is a D3 when you start. You have no armor and D3 because you get to punch a monster that's got like 70 health. It's you're dead. Like that. This is a good introduction to be like, this is how hard the game is. Now let's roll another one. Like. Number 2, so it is a little bit by TL. So number 2 starts at TL14.
Kind of, yeah.
You came from the west on an ancient vessel. Now it sits in ruin, memories just as broken. Perhaps someday you will return to your great fatherland. For now, you must survive. This is the part where it talks about island hopping. And you said there's additional island hopping rules on the website. This one straight up says, like, encourage your players to eventually island hop to try to find their old land, their ancient land, if it even exists. Number 3 is your small village has thrived for generations. Peaceful, quiet, simple hog farming people with, Grogan worshippers. Now, though, fear runs rampant. Rumor says a terrible creature skirts the shadows. Run it down and strike out your own tribe bloodland. Or tribe low blood. So players have 1 hex settlement in T1.5 in the shrublands. And for once, players begin as low blood in the stagnant village. Killing any beast will elevate them to the first god bloods, kicking their village into growth and advancement. So you actually start as low bloods in a settlement. When you kill a beast, you become a god blood, and then you're encouraged to have the village elders basically force them to want to leave. And that's how this one starts. And you're supposed to strike out and start your own shit as a god king, fighting the first monster. And then number 4, your stone tombs open, antediluvian bodies. You rise from your eternal slumber. The low bloods have awakened you, falling to their knees now as they realize what force they have unleashed. So you start at TL 2.1 in a small kingdom where you had been put to rest. The low bloods are fearful of the dark and will wake you up from a slumber to lead them. And then they're like, oh shit, look at these god bloods.
Oh fuck, what did we do?
Yeah. Exactly. These messianic saviors heralded as gods begin to rule the kingdom. And those are the 4 starts that you can do. before it gets into the dark. And the dark is literally, it's everything. It is everything.
Everywhere the characters are not, you know?
Yeah. Literally, if there's not light, it is just dark. And I know that it, like, obviously when there's no light, there's dark, but like this actual, like, ever present, like capital D dark, not just absence of light. It's never ending, long before man or beast, before even the rock could change and shift. It was there, capital I. It is all knowing, all consuming, but no matter how much it molds and splits, cracks and reforms, it shall never have what you have, the spark of life. Darkness begetting all to stop that fire. Your very existence threatens it. The dark is just a simulacrum, a cruel imitation of your soul. It smashes together invisible particles in the lightless abyss outside of your homes. Long story short, it wants you dead and wants to stay in the dark. And it will do everything to extinguish your light and stay in the dark. And there are 8 different types of dark that you could be. Is there any one that you specifically want to go over? Do you want to roll a D8 and we'll hit like maybe 1 or 2 of these darks?
I'd like to roll a D8.
Okay.
Let's see. I got a 7.
Okay, 7 is theater dark. So before that, it says when men are at least 20 feet away from any light sources, sitting in total dark and far from civilization, roll or decide the dark. Regardless of which tormentor they find, too much time spent in total dark will be fatal. Running away can buy you more time, but you can never truly outrun it. So if you ever lose your torch and you're in the dark, you roll on this and you actually find out what kind of dark you are surrounded by. And you rolled theater dark. 1,000 hands clap around you. A dagger stabs into your gut. Animal noises erupt in laughter. Another slice takes your heel. The stage is set. You are both a tragedy and comedy. Any action taken continues the play. Take D4 damage the first, then double the dice rolled each turn until you can get back into the light.
Fuck.
Yeah, dude. There's amazing ones. Ancient Dark, Slow Dark, Lost Dark, the Underdark, Soul Dark, the Star Dark is great. The Lovely Dark is cool too, though.
The Star Dark is cool.
Yeah. The Lovely Dark, it's a warm, soft, squishy place wrapping around you. It feels like the best sex you've ever had, while at the same time the coziest blanket on a rainy day. Will check each turn to resist going deeper. Each step closer takes an extremity, starting with the teeth. So basically, when you hit the dark, it feels so good, you're drawn into it. And you have to do a will check, or you continue to be drawn into it. And every step you take into it loses an extremity. And I would say extremity is just body part, because it could go and go, like your teeth, your ears, your fingers, like your arms, and then you're still literally walking into the dark if you keep failing, because it just feels so good. I would have it almost be like you don't even feel yourself losing these things. No, it's crazy. So yeah, I really love.
Horrifying.
I love these as even just like a way to kind of flavor your whole adventure anyway. To decide what the dark is at the beginning, or of course when they roll it, and then give you the sense of, you know, even the Underdark or the Lost Dark and how it starts. So it's just a really cool. I mean, it's another time. This is just fucking cool. I love this part.
It's just cool. Like it really is very cool.
So the next section talks about the Judases, which again are only mentioned as Judases at the top of the second page of this, where it says, with the exception of the chariot, all Judases age twice as slow. And then in an earlier section that says the Judases are on page 33. There's nothing on this picture of these 6 figures here that says these are the Judases. But basically the Judases are 6 kind of like half creatures of the dark sent from the dark to fuck with you.
They're like kind of like worm advisors, you know?
Yeah.
They are Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings, absolutely.
Yeah. There's 6 of them. Do you want to take one and I'll take one?
I wanted to read double. I just like double. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I've read through all these and they're all good.
They're so good.
So double, the first one. Also, look at the art at the top. Gives you a visual representation of each of these people. I like that the double has no physical features, and we'll see why in a second. Your advisor is acting strangely. He seems to speak oddly. He is a forgetful sort. Then he's gone. Your brother is soon to take. I'm sorry. Your brother is soon to take with unknown sickness. Just as strange. Soon enough, you are in the bedroom. A quiet dagger. That was a little weird to read out loud, actually. A quiet dagger and a man of a million faces descends from the closet. It forms into a mirror as the slit forms. The double is a malevolent creature of the dark. It seeks only to replace you and exercise its sick fetish. But not long after, its decadence shall bore it, and it will find another to consume. And consume it does, swallowing dead flesh into its dark underbelly. Perhaps another cousin of the crawler, but its worst power is a mimicking of any human. To do so requires a sliver of hair, a drop of mucus, or maybe even a scalp. So basically, the double is a creature that slowly works its way through your court, pretending to be one another, and its final goal is to get as close to you as possible and to depose of you, and take your place, and falsely rule your kingdom.
It's like an evil changeling, basically.
Yeah. That new body problem. Reroll every new form. So every time it takes a new form. One, it screeches loudly, randomly. Two, it spews vomit when touched. Three, it eats ungodly amounts. Four, it has no visible face or emotion. Five, its hands shake like an elder. Six, it has an intense repulsion for animals. So I guess when it takes a new form of somebody, it does one of these things. So yeah, it takes the form of your advisor, and you roll, a 2. Your advisor doesn't want to be touched anymore. And if he does bump into somebody as you're in court one day, he just fucking vomits everywhere. And you go, oh, that's fucking weird that he did that. So it gives your player characters a reason to be suspicious. They're not totally unarmed against these Judases. They are given a little bit hints to go, maybe I should investigate that motherfucker.
This is one of those things where I like that. I mean, if we play together, obviously we both read it. But if I played with a bunch of people that have never read this game, because there's nothing here that really says this is how you play a Judas or whatever. This is one of those things where you can just figure it out. I would just have this NPC just show up exactly like this and just be like, I can help you. And you straight up can say, yes, the Judases do help you. Especially the snake literally says it gives the best advice and is always right.
Yes.
But it slowly eats away at your stuff. So it's really cool. I'm going to pick the lover.
That was a good one too.
Yeah, it's one of the 2 female Judases. And the lover says, someone's cousin's sister's aunt disappears. She fills the hole. Someone minor, a courtier, a waif, but she's beautiful. Piercing blood red hair, soft lips parting with each breath, and she's not afraid to put them to use. I love me a redhead. The players will need good traits, a good wife. She has the best, whatever it is they need at the moment, but it's all a ruse. Your offspring will gain a corrupted trait, as terrible as their mother. She cares not, seeking only to plant herself on the throne as queen. She will lay with, poison, and marry anyone she must to do so. Once she has been bred, it's too late. Once she has been bred, once you bang her, you must will check to disobey her erogenous eyes, each and every command framing you as more of a madman. Your loyalty to her comes as hushed whispers unknown to all but your trapped consciousness. And this D6, because there's a D6 under each Judas of kind of what they do within your court. This is a corrupted trait you get from breeding. So number 1 is an inside out skin, and you take double damage. That's what your kid gets if you breed with her. They're born with inside out skin, and they take double damage. Wings, horns, and a tail is number 2. Number 3 is face on chest, and they can't wear hats.
Can't wear hats. Your face is on your chest. Where are you gonna put the hat?
Number 4, you're born as a dog, still sentient. Number 5, you're normal, but you combust at age 20.
Listen, and number 6, you're a sentient dog.
Yeah, it's like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And number 6, you gain a random mental trauma. I mean, these are great. There's the Chariot, which is basically Adam, literally Adam, like the first man. The Devout, which is a religious figure. There's the Vermin, which is half man, half dark. And they eat children, and the snake snake
takes over half your kingdom at a certain point. Yeah,
it's just they are quote unquote they are this. Think about what a snake would be as an advisor. There you go. That's what you get. Yeah. And they're all amazing. I really love this part. They're really cool things to add into the game. And And the next part you get are counselors. Counselors are low bloods that are skilled in with special utility in the kingdom. So as we talked about earlier, you can use power to hire counselors. There are no limits to the number of counselors you can have in a court, but too many heads can always breed treachery, and Judases can use them. Basically, they're a resource to have, but you, like everything else in the game, you have to be careful. So why don't you roll me a 1d20?
I would love to roll d20. I got 3.
Ooh, a knight is a counselor you can have. It is loyal and honor bound, and they can enter beast combat without penalties.
Nice.
There you go. Some of the other ones that are cool, I really like the Crowmaster. You can make up a rumor or spread a fact that won't fade. Has a 3 in 6 chance to be sourced back to you. So if I, as a player, were fucking with you as a player, I can use my Crowmaster to spread a rumor about you that won't go away. And then we can play that out either in a scene or in like a whole thing. Like I could spread a rumor that you're impotent.
Would you, as the DM, want them to do that privately? Because I would.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay.
The political intrigue part? Absolutely. Because that's exactly what I would do. I would spread a rumor that you're impotent. And then the whole point of this is to breed and continue the line. And if it's a fact that won't fade, what would you do if all of your kingdom thought you were impotent and wouldn't be able to have a kid to generate the kingdom? How much stress would that cause your kingdom? You know,
I'm going to spread a rumor that your favorite advisor is planning on killing you. And then, and then as the DM, you go to the other player and be like, yeah, there's a rumor. You've heard of a rumor that your favorite advisor is planning on killing you. Most people are just going to kill their favorite advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. And then especially if it's a snake, you're not getting any more help. So yeah, it's really cool. Beast hunters, lore masters, jesters. There's 20 different counselors you can use for power, which are really, really cool. I think this terrible. Oh yeah, has D4 power dice somehow. Can tell stories for days, offers lofty detached advice, and they're a coward. So
they're a coward.
Yeah. I really like that. So this next page, I believe is page 36. We talked about this before. It is just terrible trouble. So these are just tables for when you need a little bit more or a little bit of a reference. Why don't you roll me 2d12 and a d20, and that'll say where, who, and what.
So 12 is for the first one.
Uh-huh. Keep going.
9 for the second one.
Okay.
And then 6 for the d20.
Okay. So where is this terrible trouble? It's on your military training grounds. The trouble is with a renowned local craftsman. And the trouble is that you said, what number was it? 7?
6.
6. They severely breaks the local religious taboos, and many are outraged. So while on the military training grounds, one of your renowned craftsmen breaks a religious taboo.
Yeah, the military blacksmith. The military blacksmith kill you worship you can't kill animals for no reason, right? And he just fucking kills a pig,
Yeah, he fucked up with his masterwork he's working on, got pissed, threw it on the ground. There's a pig nearby. He stabbed it, wanted some bacon. Shit hits the fan. You get to deal with this now, this terrible trouble that you made. But between a 12, and a 20, the combinations of this are insane.
Yeah, they're pretty.
To be able to do for troubles. The next section we're getting into, we're probably gonna breeze through this a little bit. We'll hit the highlights of that. But this page 37, is a map. The only thing that really...
Here's my thing. Okay, go ahead. What's your thing first?
Oh, no, you did it. You brought this up, so you can go. This can be your thing.
This is a hex crawl game. Essentially, it is a hex crawl. It's a hex map. It refers to hex map. It does not come with a hex map.
So there's a hex on the page.
On this map.
Right here, yeah. That literally says how big a hex equals in miles, but then the map above it is unhexed. It's just counterintuitive. I know what we did is just find like a vector image of a hex and just make it roughly as big as that hex and threw it over, and then that works.
Actually, you know what I ended up doing? I ended up going on Incarnate and recreating the map in Incarnate and laying a hex grid over it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple, so that works too.
It is super simple. My complaint is that, the
other thing is, though, is this a reference? Is this just a reference tool? You know what I mean?
Well, so
it gives you the different...
What I'm understanding is that there was a hex map that came with the original Kickstart.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then that makes sense. again, this could just be a reference map, because I think it'd be really fun to just make a map together, and then you just pick the parts of the world it gives you. So, I mean, it is what it is. If the original one came with it, and you could make your own, but yes, it would be nicer if this just had a little bit of a hex on it. But basically what we're talking about is what amounts to the continent map. And then it gives you a bunch of different options for what those things are. So I'll read through one just so you get an example, and then we'll just read through all the titles. Is there one that you really liked, or do you want me to just start with the first one?
I don't know. I liked the marble flats, not for any specific reason other than it's just weird that they have assault flats, and it's very interesting. Like, you don't see it in a lot of fantasy stuff.
Oh, I love that. So
fucking flats.
So the marble flats, you see the core of the earth. Dry and cracked earth shatters like glass as more salt solidifies into its crevasses. Cacti and other strange life roam, consuming the salt, but the true wonderment is the great ravines. Tendriling canyons chaotically slicing to the center of God's heart stretch endlessly. Perhaps with some grapple and will, you could find something of use. So other places are the tangled woods where none would tread, the silent shrublands with the sound of nothing, the black mountains where your hair falls out in tufts, the wild grass. So the cells come apart and consume. The world hates your listful guts. Radiation wrecks the snow. The long feet drink it, and the smiles grin harder with every bucket of yellow cake that falls down their gummy throats. So basically, it's a barren, radioactive wasteland that is the Black Mountains.
Radioactive wasteland.
It's cool. I like it. And the creatures eat it. The wild grass, everything grows too large here. The frozen isolations of all of ice and melancholy. And those are the things that you could have on your land. Then there are a bunch of tables of strange things that await across the continent. Why don't you roll me?
These are great. These are great tables. These are very good.
Is there anything you specifically want to do, or do you just want to roll me like 1 or 2 d20s?
Let's just do a couple d20s.
Okay, throw me like 2 d20s, because then we can do the next 2 tables too.
First one's 6.
I like this one too. The skull snail. It hides in skulls. Intelligent, good pets. Produces yellow silk-like thread of regenerative cells into their skull over time. Keeps them alive for centuries. This silk is super strong, requiring a strength check at disadvantage to break. Great rope. So you literally have a snail in your head that produces like regenerative threads that help you stay alive longer. That's a skull snail.
So weird. It's really bizarrely weird, and I'm into it.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do the heart shroom? I like that one. It's a fat fungus that beats loudly when life is near. Plant eaters are deathly afraid of it. Edible causes paranoid hallucinations. I love it. I love it. Do you want to roll me 2 d6s, and we'll do 1 aquatic life and 1 avian?
Yeah, absolutely. Where'd my dice roll go? Oh, there it is. All right, 2d6. I got the first one's going to be 3, second one's 2.
3, grunt star. Grunts. Oh, this is the aquatic life. A grunt star grunts and coos strangely out of water. Eating it causes your organs to fail via its ridiculous ability to regenerate from a tiny piece of itself. D6 strength damage each minute unless surgically removed. So you eat this fish, and then the pieces of it continue to regenerate more fishes. So as it passes through the different parts of your body, it's just regenerating more fishes.
What the fuck?
Right?
What the fuck?
And it'll keep passing through.
I've read this several times, and I've made there's so many roll tables. I've missed a couple things, but
so if you drink it down, you could have a fish in your dick. Is all I'm saying.
Oh god damn, bro, that's fucked.
Yeah, but when it's out of the water, it grunts and coos. So the fish literally is like grunting and like go like yeah. And what'd you roll on the second one?
Fuck, a 2. God, Jesus, a 2. I rolled a 2.
Space birds.
I'm so fucked up by that.
Yeah. Sleek black birds the size of dogs often reach the upper atmosphere to soak in radiation for supper. Sleeps on water. Blood makes glowing ink.
Cool.
Yeah. And then do you want to keep going over these parts? There's tables for the frozen isolation. There's tables for the oasis, fabled and perfect. tables for the marble flats, tables for what's in the ravine. Long story short, we're not going to dig through all these tables, but each section and all the different parts you can hit on the continent, all of the things we just said, like the skull snails and grunt fish or whatever, every one of these tables is at least like a D8 table for the different areas that are all just as cool and fucked up. There's a wild grass. What's different this cycle, reroll each time they visit the wild grass. So there, as Hunter said earlier, if you don't settle it, you have to re-explore it. And there's tables to re-explore it. So you find something the first time, and then you have to go find it the second time. I love this one, though. Terrors inside the bramble heart, number 1. It's a crying baby. It needs help. Touch it, and it explodes into 3d4 acidic blood on everything nearby. An exploding baby. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Again, Black Mountains, Green Cave, Silent Shrublands. Again, this is all part of the Dark Master section for you to flesh out the adventure before you get to the beasts.
I would not let player characters, like Brian said earlier, I would not let them read past Dark Master. Because, especially beasts. The best part about the beasts is them not knowing how they work. And
I'm so excited to go over how the beasts work. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the beasts, they say the one who breaks the dark is tainted. The beasts, the burdens, the battles, they all steal away humanity bit by bit. Soon enough, the man and the beast are one and the same. So basically, when players face down the horrors of the endless night, the DM must be prepared to torture them with haste. This section catalogs the Dark Tools box of hate. So there are 6 tenets of the beast. And number 1, I love this, and I think, so let me read it, and then I'll say what I love about it.
Yes.
So every turn, a beast will perform its next step on the attack pattern, beginning with 1 and looping back to 1 if they finish their last. They are also, unless stated otherwise, able to move up to their full speed before or after attacking. So what that says is, when we get to the beast, and you'll see it in a moment, it literally gives you a list of like 6 to 8 actions that it does, and it does them in order. So as a DM, it's so easy to play the monsters because you literally just go attack, like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. There's been a couple of other like 5th edition things I've downloaded, never from 5th edition. Maybe 4E had it a little bit, that would literally give you like the first 5 actions in combat.
Right.
And I love writing monsters like that, where it's just like, this is the first 5 things I would do. If the combat's still going, just go off that now. And this literally is that, because it gives you those things and then loops around. So
and it's supposed to be like very Dark Souls, like you memorize attack patterns, so you know how to react to them.
Oh my God, I love it so much, because you can expect it if you get through the entire loop. You know what, if you realize that there are loops.
Loop.
Or you break the loop. So it says the pattern is only interrupted if a beast's HP is put to 0. Some will retreat, others keep their pattern. It's up to you to distinguish. So yeah, I love that. And like you just said, it's a ton of Dark Souls in here. Tenet number 2, beasts have a huge amount of HP to dig into before they start taking strength damage, like a ton, like 50 to 70. But once the strength is depleted, they're dead. There's no fatal injuries, traumas, nothing. They're just dead. Or if a beast will hit 0, their consciousness just fades. Number 3, they have a loudness and intellect value, which gives you... Okay, I'm going to read this part because it's great. Use them to get an idea for what they would do in any outlandish scenario the light rats would put them in. So from the Dark's perspective...
Just so you know, the player characters are the light rats.
Exactly. Number 4, beasts always drop the same quantities of items and sometimes give you and/or, because we talked about this before, it's a Monster Hunter loot game. Number 5, fighting multiple beasts requires multiple initiative and the marking of each. I don't understand this one. Use this to scale up difficulty for larger groups of players. I don't understand the concept of multiple initiatives, unless what that means is like a monster that has a 2 initiative and another monster that has 2 initiative. So there's 4 tokens in. I don't understand how this like requires multiple initiatives and the marking of each. Do you read that any differently?
I don't know. I mean, I think that finding little beast requires multiple initiatives and the marking of each. So I guess like what it's just saying is like each beast is going to have multiple initiatives, like for each beast. Like they'll have their 2 initiative tokens, right? And you just need to track which one is which, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I would just ignore that part because it makes no sense to me. Number 6, players may destroy pattern required parts. Depending on the severity of the loss, this may stun the beast during those actions or simply skip the action altogether. I love that. So if, say, in pattern number 2, a creature can use its front 2 of 10 arms.
Right.
Yeah. But if you chop off both arms, they either stunned or skip their action that turn because they can't do it. And I like that you can break the pattern. That's a way that eventually, if you survive long enough, you figure out how to do that as a player. And that's how the beasts work. I really love the way they do these.
Yes.
Do you want to?
The beasts are cool.
They're so
yes,
cool.
I would love to.
Let's do the big one last, but why don't you hit 1 or 2 and I'll hit 1 or 2? Why don't you hit 1, I'll hit 1, and then maybe we'll do the final one.
Let's go. Mine is actually close to in because the one I want to go over is the star, which is very close to in. So if you want to do one earlier first because it's so far down.
Oh, sure.
You do one first.
I actually really love the first one, the crawler. Really,
the crawler is
so fucked up.
It's somehow, even though I've never played the game, like a classic quintessential game monster of this game. It's a very good representation of this game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there's another great piece of art here, which is this. It's creature, almost centipede like, with like a fat gut, a bunch of legs, and then 2 arms on the front with what amounts to like an animal head with giant horns. Okay, it's hard to describe it otherwise. It's fucked up looking. So it's the crawler. The crawler has arrived, but you could never know. It begins with a dark blanket sweeping over your herd of hogs. They love hogs in this game.
They do love hogs.
Yeah. Hog wild. Slowly muffling the squeals with the void. Then its spiraling horns finally enter your lantern light and the darkness seems to pass. White arms drip out. The silence is broken by the snapping of your neck. I really, really like this. So just to give you a sense of how the stats work. And again, player stats start at like 3d6. The most you can have is like an 18, right? This creature, armor 2. So there's armor soak. HP 70. So you have to get past the armor and the HP before you get to the strength, dex, and will. Strength 16, dex 9, will 14. So realistically, you have to knock off like 86 points of damage getting past 2 armor to kill this thing. Insane. Its loudness is silent, its intellect is high, its initiative is 2, which I assume means you put 2 initiative tokens in since they do the stack?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And the speed is 4. And a quick run through of the attack pattern, a little flavor. If anything, the crawler exists to eat. It silently stalks the grazing hog hordes through the shrublands, leaving behind a greasy trail of slick mucus. Anticipating its much-awaited meal, it patiently lies in wait for the hogs to breathe themselves into exhaustion. Long story short, it's dark and silent, and it will creep up on you on its gross, dripping legs, and then snatch you out of the dark, break your neck, and eat you. And it is greased up all over. So to give you an example of what an attack loop looks like, it says, number 1, the crawler is tall enough for people knocked down to slide under it. Underneath, they will find a massive gaping maw dripping painful D4 acid damage each turn. So I think this thing's probably about 10 feet high, and when it stands up, you could like slide underneath it because in the attack pattern, it actually crawls over you. The crawler, number 1, of a 8-part loop, so I won't read the whole thing. The crawler grabs its horns and rubs them rapidly, causing a hypnotic spiral pattern. Targets have to make a will save or be stunned, and a will save to break out of it. So literally, first thing it does is start rubbing its horns. Hypnotic pattern. Number 2, it charges forward at double speed, doing damage to anyone in its path. Number 3, it thrashes around diagonally. Anyone it hits takes d6 damage and is knocked down. Number 4, it crawls sideways onto the nearest target on the ground. Trample for another d6 damage. So if anyone's on the ground, it literally crawls over, stomps on it.
God, so fucking brutal.
Again, if it's over top of it, acid damage from the maw underneath, right? Number 5, if anyone is within melee range in front, choke 2 people for d8 damage. So you get to choke a bitch because of its long arms in the front. And if there's not 2 people in front of it, it says else trample targets under. Number 6, you stand up on 2 legs, moving back slightly, and repeat step 1. Number 7, you retch stomach acid in a 15-foot cone, and everyone rolls fatal injuries. If they have armor, the armor is destroyed on that location, and if they don't, they take an injury. And number 8, they fall forward. Everyone underneath takes d8 damage. And then loop, you start back at the beginning. And that is the attack pattern. That's a really hard pattern to get attack of, because if you actually get through steps 1 through 8 and live, to realize that you're back at step 1 is going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if those are like 3 things, I could see you figuring out it's a loop or figuring out what the loop is. But to actually have 8 things and get back to the loop, I mean, that's crazy. And the other thing about the monsters is that they're 2 pages each with a full page art on each one. One is all of the stats and one is the loot you get from it. And something else.
Next to the loop. Yeah, go.
Yeah. So some of the stuff you get from dissecting the limp grease pile is 2 crawler level, which gives you a crawler leather, which gives you 1 armor value, an additional armor value against bites. One of the other things is a crawling helmet. It's a 1 armor value helmet. You can use your full turn to dance any single target into hypnosis. They must will check or lose their next turn -1 speed for having the helmet on. So you get to literally like
No, man, you got horns on a helmet. You like whip them around.
Oh yeah, you're right. Got to do a horny dance. Yeah. The other thing too is variations to ruin your day. So these are things that you can do to change the combat each time. Number 1 is a sickly lightweight crawler that has double speed and can parry 50% of attacks with its front hands.
God.
Number 2 is an aquatic crawler.
Brutal.
Right. Number 3 is a static crawler. It rubs its horns so fast it can do static shocks, and it shocks bolts on turns 1, 5, and 8. And number 4 is a monstrous giga crawler. It's the size of a school bus. You double everything in half the speed. Double everything, including damage, in half the speed. Insane.
Run.
So that's what a month. It literally says. I'm sorry. Yeah. Double all stats, double all damage, half speed, run. Like it's. I love the way they do monsters in this game, and I love that every monster is an epic creature of the beast. Anyway, so that's a crawler, and you wanted to do the star?
No, let's do stranger. I think star is interesting for only one of the variations. It's just a weird monster, but let's do the stranger because I think it's overall more interesting.
Is that what you said on one hand? Which page is the stranger on?
Fuck me, bro. I don't know. 73. Also, we're on 73. We're almost done. Like this book's almost over. You know,
73. Oh, I'm on page 56. There's a lot of monsters here.
There's a lot of monsters.
Yeah, I really like the other one. I really liked
Look at the art. The art is so cool on these.
Was the Fury was good. Yeah, I'll slowly scroll through so you can look at the art. This is the Fury, and again, buy the book if you want more. This is the Glutton.
You should buy this book. Yeah. It's a good book.
It's a great book. I know Ratty and Kintati said he was going to be their Canadian shop is going to start carrying this, and I got mine on Exalted Funeral too.
Yeah, I got mine on Exalted as well.
The Hysteria has multiple heads, which is really cool. Will saves because they mock you. The Mercy is, gosh, again, just look. And so, sorry if you guys out in podcast land. I'm not going to describe every single one of these, but this is like a fucked up zebra creature. The Queen in the Hive. Yeah. Oh yeah. Watch our VODs. The Queen in the Hive is like bee monsters and like a reptile monster. The Scream. Okay, I'm just gonna go to 73 now. The Smiler.
Should be next.
The Star.
Nope. After that. My bad.
And you want the Stranger. All right, go for it.
The Stranger. Oh, even I scrolled past it. The Stranger. The Stranger strangles his throat-sized fingers around the blade. A musty sense of kinship rushes over you, and
archaic.
Why am I having archaic? Why I have a hard time?
You have a struggle bus today, son.
What is going on?
Make
today,
it bigger. Make it bigger.
Maybe that's maybe it's just I'm blind. Oh, there we go. I can see it. Archaic familial smell. Your brain tells you to flee, but your broken legs tell you otherwise. He places his feet on the ground, mimicking your combat training, a cruel mirror. You glimpse a flash in his eyes, a desperate fear of failure and starvation. You have little time to reflect upon its validity as the alien slams the blade against your knees once again. So, the Stranger. The Stranger is a fucking like mimic human.
You love those mimic stuff because your favorite Judas was the double too.
Yeah, I do like the mimic stuff. I do like, it just appears to be a person, or it's relatable to you as a person. It has armor 1, HP 50, which is less than 70, but shit's still pretty high, dog. It also has 3 initiative, so it moves 3 times per turn. Yeah. No, the stranger begins with a random assembled weapon from all weapon parts. They also begin with an accessory, helmet, and chest piece. So they are a fully kitted person you go against.
Let me just scroll down to the art real quick. It is
human-ish,
human-ish. It's like a giant, like blobby, like white shape with stubby legs, a giant toothy smile, and these like massive hairy arms that hang down to the ground. And then it wears armor, apparently.
It does, yeah.
So with the initiative too, like, so trying to remember the stack. Basically, you put 3 tokens in, which means every round this thing goes 3 times.
Yeah.
Damn, fuck.
It's gonna make 3 of its attack pattern moves around. Let's just go straight to the loop. I'm not worried about reading the attack pattern. It's got one. It's interesting. The stranger is a brutal mockery of man. The mutant chimpanzee to the hominid. He is no natural creature. The darkness molds men and women swallowed by it into the stranger. He is a visitor from the player's past, a lost soul that couldn't be saved, a child thrown into the cold depths, a forsaken ancestor. The stranger's lives as a dark reminder of the deep cutting failure. So this is a great story component monster for one of your player characters. Like, you remember that person you failed, that friend you lost in the dark, that family member that you let go. This is them, and I would make this mimic seem like them. The stranger seem like them.
Well, the other thing too is if it was them too, the armor that they wear into combat could be like distinctive. And that's what causes you to be like, oh shit, Yeah,
the dark is an interesting evil in this game because it takes a lot of forms. Okay, or maybe he is truly a monster, hollowly mimicking a more successful species. His nature is uncertain. It's something none can ever really know. But some specific neuron spins well enough for him to use weapons and tools without true understanding. The only fact about the stranger is that he is neither sentient nor an animal, but a machine. Cold and specific programming holds back emotions and pain until his life reaches its very end, in which he will retreat with haste. So this one will run away, which makes sense. It's a mimicry of a human. A human would run away from a life. Very few people fight to the death. And we say that a lot in this. But yeah, it mimics that.
I love that. Well, one of the things I think we breezed through at one part, it talks about the creatures as literally like almost machines. They're like simulacrums. Yeah. They're just like parts of the dark puts out there to murder you, but they're not really necessarily like quote unquote alive like they are, but that's why they have these attack patterns. They're literally basically like machines made of darkness that have no real personality or anything, that are just thrown at you, which is such a cool, like small, but like profound kind of thing to it, which is really neat. I really like it a lot.
I would like to skip right to variations and then we'll do big guy after this, because I think this one has some of my favorite variations. But the first one, the mirrored stranger, I think is great. Mimics a random target 1-to-1 down to arts and moves. So awesome. One of your fucking party, it just looks like one of them random. And I personally, every time it hit its initiative token, I would change it. It's like, nice. I would change it every initiative. It just looks like one of the party and switch back and forth. Let's see. The Tux, number 3, the Tux stranger. White pattern reach out from his chin to his groin. He is able to teleport anywhere in combat, even combat every other action. He's able to just teleport every other action. He has a higher intellect and initiative at the cost of no armor. So no armor, but moves more and smarter.
Yeah. Well, he gets 1 armor point. So basically you would do 0 armor for initiative.
Right. Yeah.
That sucks. And they can teleport all over. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would survive this.
I would say he looks like a man who's all dark, like just all made of shadow with a white suit on.
Yeah. Oh man.
So good. Okay.
So good.
I think it's time to do the big boy.
All right.
It's time to do the big boy.
Yep. Go for it.
So all these monsters like culminate in this end of the world monster essentially, and that is the behemoth. And this is one of my favorite pieces of art because it uses this negative space. I think you can tell better on the spreads than you can because like you can only see it on the right half of the page that you were looking at, and then but on my screen on the spreads it's all one, and you can see it's like the arms are colored, the legs are colored, the wings are colored, and the eyes. I'll give you a second. I'm gonna keep describing it though, but then the whole body is just blacked out. You can't see what its body looked like. But man, it is a cool piece of art. I'm gonna start reading. Are you gonna try to pull it up?
Okay, cool. Yeah, you start reading and I'll download the spread version.
The Behemoth. A dumb eye rises from the depths. First, the fisherman spots something lumbering amongst the dark storms. Then docks see the shoulders. Is only when the wings rise out, stretching city-wide, does the god king notice. The Behemoth is the phlegm of the dark moon. Left in the darkest, blackest pit possible, the depths of the ocean, small flecks of it swarm off and evolve into smilers and crawlers, wrecking our land. But it's sad. It gestated in the dark, the primordial life before all else, dumb and patient. So other monsters came from this one. Parts of it became smilers, crawlers, and started wreaking havoc across the land. It is woken only when all else fails. The humans have conquered the continent. They run free every day. Steam engines insult the dark. Fires spread along the rivers and throughout the fields. So when your player characters get to the point where they've conquered most or all of the land, and they are successful and they're ruling and they're in their steam engine phase, the Behemoth comes. Cool. The next page. Oh yeah, there is. Look, doesn't it? Dude. And look, you can see you. There's you right down
tiny.
there.
It's not even the size like a fingernail. I think from now on, if a book does have pages and spreads like the like Orbital Blues like this, I'm just gonna bring up both so I can reference, because it's super easy. It just auto fits to the size in Adobe. But yeah, you're right. Like this is such a good. It's
fantastic.
It's the best piece of art in the game. Like it's all of its legs and wings, and then just 2 circles for eyes, and its core body is still just blackness.
Yeah.
Like it's such a good piece of art. Such a good piece of art. All right.
The end of the world. The end of the world. The Behemoth begins on the coastal hex. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, I was saying it's the end of the world, and I feel fine.
Oh, yeah. It begins on a coastal hex, or a coast hex, nearest the largest mass of civilized hexes. Every life step, and that's a big important thing, because it's not like every round, every life step, the Behemoth moves either to settlements or uncivilized hexes, or through one district hex. Any hexes he moves through are destroyed. So basically it just moves through. It's if you play D&D, it's the Tarrasque, you know?
Yeah.
It has 3 armor. The HP is special, and we'll get there. It has a 20 on all 3 of its stats. Loudness just says really ? It's the end of the fucking world. It's deafening, you know?
Yeah.
Intellect is low, which makes sense because it's a big dumb monster. Initiative 2, speed is 5. Although speed's really like, who gives a fuck about speed for this thing? It's destroying cities, you know? Yeah. Note, each turn the Behemoth's attack pattern is chosen by the DM. On the first turn, the DM may choose which body part to attack with. On the second turn, they may choose a body part to attack with from the second row, and so on until looping after 5. Additionally, the Behemoth does not have centralized HP. Each body part has 120 HP, with the head having 60 plus strength. If any 3 body parts are destroyed, the Behemoth is vanquished. The Behemoth does not recover HP or lost limbs between combat. 120 per.
But does not recover HP or lost limbs between combat. So you could have like an entire campaign basically of like going and fighting the Behemoth, trying to survive, come back, go fight the Behemoth, try to come back. And not only that, you can have it across multiple life steps because it only moves so slowly. So you can literally like every life step go fight the Behemoth, and then have your kids go fight the Behemoth until it gets to your capital.
Behemoth,
yeah. Crazy. You could have a whole. You could literally just have a whole campaign of we're in TL5. A behemoth just showed up on the shoreline. Now let's run a campaign across multiple life steps as it creeps closer to you across the lifetimes. Like, that would be so cool.
Yeah. It's it's epic and it feels very epic. You know what I mean? Like, this is an epic monster. It's not like the other monsters. This is an end of the world thing. And it feels like it. Cool. Blessed be these curses, that which will end us all. I think this is
I was gonna say, is this
what
the
you
loot
get
table?
from it. Yeah, this is what you get from the behemoth. Which is very interesting. It's not in the same order, but you'll see why, because the next page is all of its movements. Let's do Antediluvian Sword. Two-handed, spending 1 dex, you can counter any incoming damage with a 1 in 6 chance, even projectiles. Pretty cool, right? Mm-hmm. Dark Moon Claws, just read one more. An accessory, use your attack action to spend 4 will to direct a D20 damage lightning strike. What the fuck?
So good.
Cool. Now, on the next page, we have the actions that each individual body part can take. And it's pretty cool. Ryan, do you want to read a couple of these, or?
Sure. I will go with I will just pick, well, so it's head, left hand, right hand, legs. So there's four parts. I'll go with the left hand. And there's 5 parts of each. And you said, what did you say? That the DM may choose which body part to attack with. On the second turn, they may choose a body part to attack with from the second row, and so on. Oh, okay. So there's 4 parts with 5 things, but you hit, like, if you go head on number 1, you do number 1, but if you go right hand for the second attack, it's number 2. If you go left hand for the next one, it's number 3. So really, there's no real pattern, because you can. It's crazy the number of combinations you can switch up each time. So I'll go left hand number 1. You swipe his left hand in a scoop at the largest group, lift him hundreds of feet into the air. You're dead. You're dead. Your kids take over. Life step moves on. Don't get hit by the left hand next time. I mean, what do you do?
The thing about this I like real quick is that it is the end of the world, and this obviously is a game that's not supposed to have like a very positive resolution. And like, behemoths can really kill you and all your family and actually end this game. Like, there's definitely a realm where you could kill it. I do believe that. But at the same time, I think there's a realm that you could just die out. Yeah. You know?
Well, it depends. I mean, I imagine, since it says it moves per life step, if you put it on the most populated hex coast and say it's like 15 hexes to get to you, right? And it only moves like 2 hexes per life step. That means I would say the world ends when it destroys the capital, right? Basically. So if it's going to take basically, what did I say? Maybe like 8 life steps to get to the capital. That means you have 8 life steps and probably getting murdered each life step to defeat the behemoth. And if you do 1 life step per session, that's why I said you could do a whole campaign with this. I
would let them keep going after the capital is destroyed and start creating temporary capitals. Like, just like live on the outskirts. But like, everything that's destroyed is now reclaimed by the dark. So if you pass through it, you're passing through the dark.
So you would basically need to have the behemoth like go through every settlement across the entire continent. But I mean, realistically, that could take like 10, 15 sessions, depending on how slow it moves. So do you want to do any of these?
I think that was good. There's a lot. Buy the book. This is a good book, y'all.
It is a good book. I do want to go.
So the next couple pages are really cool. We have diseases.
Well, sorry. Before that, did you notice how you said that the creatures come from the behemoth, right?
Right.
So on this page, it's actually a close-up of the eyes, where the behemoth is all black.
On the inside of the eyes.
The eyes are filled with every monster picture. Like, it's so good. Like, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that was just such a cool.
No,
cool
that was
thing,
a good point to make, because it's fucking cool.
So cool.
So I'm good to like cruise through the next couple pages, because I really just want to read the end of the world and the Dark Moon Rises. So diseases, a lot of really cool options. They're also brutal as fuck. You have weather, a lot of really cool options. Also, not surprisingly, brutal as fuck. And then we get to petty relics, which are kind of just like some lesser items that give you kind of bonuses. And then we have the how to end the world. For when it is truly time to end things. With each of these results, follow the rules along the right. Number 1 is the behemoth. So the behemoth can end the world. Number 2 is the light returns. Our creator has come home. The beauty of the sun replaces the dark. She looks for a soul to rise to the heavens. An angel, only one soul.
God King, baby.
God King. Yeah, the sun comes back in that one, which is kind of a cheery ending, kind of. 3, hell is full. The corpses of the Godblood's founding ancestors, including Adam, rise again, corrupted by the dark. They seek their rightful throne. Hey, zombie horror becomes a zombie game. 4, waves of bodies. The tribes of the Yuna, which they're in one of the areas, and you can come across them. We do actually kind of miss that part, but they exist. They're like non-human sentient creatures. Unite. They march a horde onto man's civilization. They kill you. And so it says to follow the rules along the right during these, and those rules are the dark moon rises. Rule number 1, strength can never be healed. HP is unaffected. You can still regain HP, but your strength can never be healed. Rule number 2, double all beast encounters, save for the behemoth. 3, all children born again gain a mental trauma. So if you do behemoth, the moment the behemoth comes out, you cannot gain strength back. You can't gain HP, you can't gain strength back. If you, for some reason, venture somewhere with beast, which I would really advise you not, it doubles. And if you have children, they gain a mental trauma because they're in a traumatic time.
Yeah. I mean, as if the behemoth wasn't hard enough, but I guess within the context of potentially, as we just talked about, the behemoth taking 8 to 10 sessions to finish, you got to have other stuff going on in those sessions. There are active play times. It's not just like inactive play. So this is brutally like impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And then the final back page. I mean, this is just a good kind of starter, a great breakdown. It's a dark RP at the dawn of civilization where man is in an untamed, sunless world. And you assemble your lineage to make beast hunting weapons and fight the dark. I mean, I love this game so much. I do too. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the critiques in the score section, which is upon us. Are you ready for this?
I'm so ready for it. We're making decent time today. We always aim to be a 3-hour show. We never end up being a 3-hour show. We're only 11 minutes over so far.
But we started at like 8:10, 8:15 today. We got to start like a little earlier. So we're right at around 3 hours. We did a good job. This isn't a Red Giant episode,
Yeah.
I don't know why we ran so long. I think maybe like you were tired and I was super chatty and it just got long. So
it did get long.
So all right, so as we do all the time, this is the Weekly Scroll game review. Go on our website or go on our Instagram. It's one of the early posts. It breaks them all down, but real quick, it's 5 topics, 5 things that we rate on, each to a score of 10 for a total of 50. Art and style is the art within the book, if there's enough. Art and style. How it's like and if it's consistent. Number 2 is layout and function, which is actually the layout of the book and how easy it is to navigate. We talked about that a bunch in here. The rule set and crunch, if it is a unique rule set, is it good? And if it adapts a rule set, does it adapt it well? And crunch is the amount of rules in the game feel appropriate for the game itself? Is it not Shadowrun? Originality is originality in the rule set and in the lore and in the game in general. Some of these are pretty loose based on our personal. I mean, it's all our opinions, and our opinions are probably shit. So
our opinions are shit. Yeah, don't listen to this part if you don't want to. We don't blame you for it.
And number 5 is the value. It used to be called the price, which didn't quite hit what we meant. Value means just how much bang you get for your buck. Like, what do you get? For example, is there a third-party license? There's a ton of third-party content. Do you get free character sheets? Do you get free online generators? Does the creator
have a blog running where she adds new stuff and stuff for the game for free? Because the answer is yes. But
so that's those are the topics that we go to. Score of 50. Highest score we've ever got is Merkberg for 44. We'll see what this gives. So art and style wise, I mean, we can do as we do. Start at a 5, or I'd rather just start as a 10 and go down. I think the only thing that we described the 10 as basically an art book with rules in it.
An art book, yeah. An art punk book. Once again, Merkborg is, I think, maybe still our only example of that.
It is the function. I think there's only one score that has more than one book with a 10 in it, and I think that's Value, Merkborg, and Casket Lane.
Oh yeah, because Merkborg's Value is you buy that book and there's a ton of shit online. You run a bunch of shit. Yeah. So for art and style for this,
I don't think it's quite Merkborg.
It's not. It's pretty good though.
It's pretty. I mean, first of all, the style of the art is fucking gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. I love it. It hits the vibe. There are pieces that are pretty rough, and not in like a Merkborg rough kind of way, just like a little bit rough, but consistent throughout. There's so much art in the book too. Every monster has an art piece. What are your thoughts on this?
You know, this is somewhere between an 8 and 9 for me. I'm thinking an 8. You know, I feel very good about giving this one an 8.
What was the last one we did? Orbital Blues?
This is art comparable to Orbital Blues.
So we gave Orbital Blues a 9.
Okay, I'm really good with this one. Get a 9. It's a lot of art. There's art everywhere. They use a lot. It really lends to the tone. And I know we sometimes give high scores, but I mean, I don't know how to critique it any lower. I mean, realistically, even if we're being mean, this is an 8. But it fills a lot of negative space page to page. Like the weapons has visual representation for weapons. The problem is that we only review good games. We should find some shit games just lay in on.
Yeah, but I don't really want to be that guy.
Yeah, but you don't want to read those games. So,
and we also don't want to be the assholes that rip apart someone's like hard made creation. You know, for the most part. But yeah, so art and style gets a 9. So layout and function. Here's the thing.
We're gonna take a hit here.
Big hit. Objectively, just looking at the layout and function, not how much we love the game. I mean, there's no hyperlinks. There's no bookmarks. There's very few heading titles. A lot of times, the only reason
it's not that there's very few. They just lack them in weird spots. You know,
almost entirely. I really can't think of very many that actually have heading titles. There's a couple. That's about it.
No,
you know what I mean?
There are a bunch of heading titles, but there's just like there's equal. I think it's half and half. There's equal parts that don't have heading
half and half. But I mean, there's some sections like, again, the only time the word Judas is mentioned on the Judas's page is in the little caveat about the chariot not being like the other Judases. And then the only other time that you know what's on page 15. Oh, okay, sure. But then there's an earlier section that says Judas is on page 15 on like page 9. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's nothing that says Judas is on top of the page.
Totally. And there's a bunch of stuff that is past the Dark Master section where it becomes a lot of DM specific stuff that I kind of would want before that.
A little bit.
My players can see it. And then I could tell them not to read past that point because they're going to need to know some of the like the light stuff, you know?
Yeah. I just think, I mean, I like the way it's laid out. I think it's beautifully laid out. I think that, I mean, just visually looking at the pages, I think the pages are beautifully laid out. You know what I mean? Individually, especially the bestiary section. But functionality is not great. It's a difficult book to navigate, I feel.
You know, remember when I told you that I was a little frustrated the first time going through it because I was having a hard time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know it was just like
lost.
me having poor. Yeah, I got lost a couple times, and it took me a few reads, and then when I got it, I really loved it. And I hope that you guys listen to this, and listen to this the first time going through your book or before you go through it, because it will make you enjoy going through this book more. Because we've just laid out a bunch of stuff and explained a bunch of stuff, and Ryan and I were able to go, oh yeah, this is explained later on. They'll mention this later. TL means this. Because that's not in the book, and there's also there's no examples of play, and I need it for some of this. Because if I'm running a party of people, I want to know what they think that this looks like in active play. Like I can assume totally, but I would love to know what they think it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why we do the podcast in general, is to give people a good breakdown and hopefully a good breakdown and understanding of maybe the tricky parts of a book or rules or something like that, prior to digging through it themselves or having read it and had questions, you know, because we've a couple of times we've actually got answers from creators or even had creators in our chat. So it's really nice to have that. So hopefully that's why we do this, and hopefully this is helpful to you. If not, You're not a target audience. So layout and function. My gosh, it's
a 5 for me, man.
Okay, so for me, five is just baseline average. It's an average thing, and to me,
and I think. Go ahead.
Here's my thing. I think 5 is baseline table of contents, no hyperlinks, no book. Well, I mean, I think me personally thinks everything should be hyperlinked.
Ryan, keep going.
I think it gets a point for how beautiful each individual page is, but loses a point for the lack of hyperlinks and the lack of and how difficult it is, the lack of heading titles, things like that. I'm between a 5 and a 6 on this.
I'm good with either of those. So
let's be generous because I love the game so much. Let's go with the 6 for this. So 6 for that. So rule set and crunch. I know that in 2021, I'm gonna stop. So this is what I did last time. I was yelling and projecting to the mic. We got to bring it down.
We're getting down to our, you know. And then they found her body in the woods.
Yep. So I just know I'm screaming, and my mic will keep it at a consistent volume. But actually, I'm sure my wife is on the other side of my door going, "What the fuck is he yelling for?" Anyway, so rules and crunch. I know in 2021, Into the Odd was your game of the year. You absolutely fucking loved it.
I love that game.
And as far as rules go, this is basically Into the Odd with that cool sword and armor art options.
Yes.
And the other rules I think are so good. Like, I can't think of, like, the war stuff is great. The hex crawl settlement stuff is great. The micro play, the macro play, the micro combat, the macro combat. There's not any part of the actual rules of running the game where I'm like, I don't like that. Every part of it, I'm like, fuck, that's cool.
Like it. I like every part of the rules.
I like every part of it.
It's funny because it like there's a lot going on, but it doesn't ever seem like too much. Like
exactly, dude. Like,
I know exactly what's going on. I have a good understanding of this game, and for playing session number 1 with my players, like they'd all have a pretty good understanding of how things work. They might not remember specifically what every single thing is,
because there's a lot.
They'll know how it works. Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing: you can have an entire war, and the war section took up like one column of the page. But felt like enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish I could pick apart. So if I had to pick apart anything, I know you like Into the Odd better than I like Into the Odd, but that's because I think that not that I don't love Into the Odd. I like to hit rolls. You know?
Oh yeah. I guess.
So if I had to critique anything, it's more the Into the Odd system. Like, I still prefer things like Maze Rat or Cairn or something like that, where there's a to hit, but you don't have to roll again. Or like Tunnel Goons. So that's the only thing I can say. And that's a shitty little, I have to say something.
My critique, and actually I think my critique still over layout and function, because my critique is that there's no actual play examples. What does war look like for your other players who aren't going to war? But that's not a rule set and crunch. That's a layout function.
I think that's a layout function thing. That's a layout thing.
For me, man, this is a pretty strong rule set.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's perfect.
Totally.
I think it's about as close as you can get to perfect. I don't know if we'll ever find a 10 because you and I have different perspectives on rules. And I think if we're both
your opinions are wrong. So
I disagree. But this is a solid 9 for me. A solid 9.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, not even unquestionably. I really don't. Again, I don't think it's possible for us to come to a conclusion on or consensus on anything that's a 10. I'll be shocked, and I can't wait to play the game that is. This is a 9 for me. Easy. No need to even keep talking about it. Originality. So listen, dark shit's happened before. But
it's a totally derivative piece that is pretty original at the same time. Like, it takes a lot of concepts from a lot of different things and puts them together, and it works.
And how? You know what I mean? Like, disregard the rule set because it's Into the Odd and it's like one fucking page, right? But when you put the lore, like, first of all, name me another game, another tabletop role-playing game that mixes like multi-generational play, active play, like micro level active play macro level active play that you can still do micro role playing in, where it's like, if you like this thing, like focus it on this scene. I mean, the in the world part, I mean, I can't think of another game that has the layers of complexity across like generations and centuries, and like, not only that, even the start of the game where it's like you are literally just naked with a fucking torch. Good luck against this insane creature.
That were awoken from your slumber.
Oh my god! Like, I just, again, and what you just said is, it's so realistically, it's derivative as fuck. Like, there's so much Dark Souls in this. Almost every part you can pick is something else, but it's almost like they took a bunch of stuff and smashed it on the ground. Like 4 different like pieces smashed on the ground and put it back together into a completely unique, bigger, amazing piece where you can see the pieces of these other things, but it has become this other, even better, bigger thing that feels like complete and individual on its own, even though it's made of these other parts.
What are you thinking?
Fuck, dude.
You can't.
I mean, there is no such thing as but there's no such thing as a completely original idea. So this is originality within the scope of the originality you can have, right? The concept that like something is new doesn't exist, right? Everything is something. Have we given anything a 10 for originality?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Maybe did we give Necronalis a 10?
Can't think of it off the top of my head. It's probably on the Instagram. I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I have them all saved on my computer too. I can pull it up real fast.
I do too. I just don't know where they're saved in my computer because I have to reorganize.
Mine is in the scores section. So Necronalis did get a 10 for originality.
It did? Do we think this is as enjoyably original as Necronopolis?
I mean, I'll love it to death. I really do. Necronalis, though, the entire concept that you are just like floating,
you're a sentient gas in death's universe,
in a universe of death. Like, I mean, 9. So 9 for me.
Okay, 9.
I guess. And this is why we refer to games that we've previously gone over, because that's exactly how we can get context for this. As far as value, so
it's $20 for the
$20
book and the PDF,
which is not bad for an 80+ page book, even though it's softback.
Yeah. And then Sophia Tinney on her blog, which I'm blanking on what it's called.
Full of Stars, I think.
Has a bunch of tools, like a bunch of island generator, more character generation options, and a couple other things. Yeah, and like really, I mean, with this book, you don't really need anything else. You can hand draw a map, you know.
No. But there's a bunch of games like that too. So we have to contextually, the reasons we've given things points before, we have to start taking those things away. So I don't see a third-party license, but I do see other people making content for it. So I'm not sure if it has like a Creative Commons license where you can make, and I know there's not like an SRD or anything like that. We gave points previously to Merkborg and Arc for having like online free generators, which this doesn't have. Right. We gave points before for like Casket Land and Merkborg for having so much like basically free content online. I mean, Merkborg literally has free content online. Like everything in Ferritory you can find free online, and it's got like every time they do a Kickstarter, they make a new online resource, Monster Maker, Dungeon Maker, all those kind of things. So we gave extra points for that. So I personally think value-wise, just the cost of the magazine. The other thing is you always get the PDF from Exalted Funeral. Do you always get the PDF from everywhere you order from? I don't know.
So she has another site that I was just looking at that gives you the option of the PDF or the PDF in print. And it looks like the PDF only is $10 if you get that.
Not bad. I mean, that's a cost of a PDF. I'm probably $10 for a PDF.
This one's $20 as well. So
yeah, I think that's a good price. I think that gives it a 6. You get PDF and print. We said like a 35 page for a $35 for a soft cover PDF and print was like a 6, right? This is $20 for like an 80 page book.
Yeah.
I think that's a 6 for me. I think the fact that she does continue to create content and has a website puts it to a 7 for me. But I don't really see anything else after that that's like bonus value content. Like there's not like an expansion. There's not like you get character sheets as part of the PDFs and stuff like that. So for me, this sits at right around a 7.
I'm good with that. I think that's fair. So,
gotcha. And again, I mean, considering 5 is average, anything above 5 is pretty is good. It's above average. So I honestly think this is probably the highest rated game we have. I think this blows Merkborg out of the water. I think it's easily does.
10s.
It's gonna be fucking close. Let me pull up my calculator. 9
I'm not good at math, y'all.
6 plus 9 plus 9 plus 7. Ooh. So the layout and function, I'm wrong. I think if you took value off, Merkborg's at a 34. And if you took value off of this, it's a 33. But if you don't take value off, it is a 40. So really, it is that layout and function at a 6 that really puts a damper on it. Because as far as art, rules, and originality, I can't think of another one that got 3 9s.
Yeah, I got 3 9s. Pretty good. I mean, I think the disclaimer for this game, like, and I think every game that we review, it's not just the number review we give, it's also the type of game it is. Ryan and I are pretty open to playing almost anything. But especially a game like this is for a specific table. And if you have a table that might have people who are a little bit more sensitive or take things really personally when there are actions against them, this is not a game for you. For that table, at least. This
is a game for a table full of sarcastic assholes that know each other really
comfortable
well
with each other, you know.
And not only that, like if you just fucked me like so hard in this game, just murdered the fuck out of me or did some rumor or whatever, I would be so proud of you. You know what I mean? Like I'd be pissed and happy.
And yeah.
Those are the people you have to play with. You have to play with people that are gonna try to fuck you so bad, and then everyone's gonna laugh about everything that happened over a beer like after the game. And the harder you do it,
you can
the
play
more
with
people are entertained.
Anyone who wants to play a tabletop game, you can play Into the Odd with. This is you have to have a group of sarcastic, cool people that are comfortable with each other, and they're not gonna take it personally when they fuck each other over, because they're gonna fuck each other over.
I will say, I as having yet unplayed it, but on the first full read through of this game, this might be my favorite game I've ever read, and
it's really good,
including Merkborg, like my favorite game we've gone over on the podcast.
Yeah, like, really? Okay, cool. I like that.
Score be damned. Like if I right now had to pick between playing this with a perfect table full of people and playing Merkborg with a full table full of people. And I reference Merkborg because I am obsessed with Merkborg. I love it so much. Yeah. It is. I would pick this. And I'll tell you why. And one of the things I love about Merkborg is that gonzo over-the-top darkness of it. This, instead of gonzo, like I think we said it over and over again, it's just kind of like a giant middle finger. Like there's so many parts of it that's literally just like, this is brutal because I want it to be. And as the Dark Master, you should just fuck with your players super, super fucking bad. That speaks to me a little bit more than the gonzo, a little bit, like a shred. Like I'm saying, like if in my realm of games, if I rate them all at 100 on how much I want to play it, if Merkborg is like a 98 or 99, this is 100. Like it's slightly above, but I love everything about it. The color scheme, the art, like I said, if it just had some hyperlinks and more section headers, this would it would be perfect to me.
Merkborg. Yeah. It would have, if it had a better layout, it would have, it would beat most of our games.
It would, if it was easier to navigate the book, this would be our highest rated game. I mean, minus value because Merkborg, I mean, when you can literally have the art director of a game in a Discord chat and he's like, oh, I'll draw a picture for that. It's going to be hard to beat the value of a game, you know? But just as far as the book and the rules, better layout, this is easily the best score we've done, but still my favorite one, including Merkborg. My favorite game that we've read. I can't recommend this enough. And at $20, it's a fucking steal.
At $20, man. I mean, really, that's like super reasonable, though.
Super reasonable. Super reasonable. So as far as the scores go, I think this is only like 1 point off like Into the Odd. I think is like its peers in our scoring. Right? Yeah, I think Into the Odd was a 41. So if I look at I'm sorry, I just paused. Someone in a chat named the Sophia cow just made a comment. I can only hope that Sophia Tinney. And I hope she heard what I just said as being like probably my favorite game I've ever looked at.
Yeah, we're a huge fan of this game.
I love it. I'm obsessed. Yeah. So just purely on a score basis, no, it's above Into the Odd. I think Into the Odd Into the Odd's a 40. Necronalis is a 42 because, as we all know, we are an Adam Vast Stan podcast.
Yeah, it's really hard to be Adam Vast in our podcast.
And then Merkborg, and a lot of that is 2 10s for the art and the price. So this lumps it right as like the top 3 scored game. But again, like I don't even think unquestionably.
I think the active to the micro, the macro play aspect of this, like kingdom building aspect, it just kind of takes it to a whole other level. Where it's like, yeah, it's a cool game, and you get that, and you're like, oh fuck, this is cool. Like, there's so much that you could do with a good party to just make their lives hell and make their kingdom, like having a kingdom be an everyday fight that they have to go through.
But then there's like sections where it's maybe just like a 2-part spread part, like the war part, or like the deities and paganism section, where it's just like, oh, hey, also you get to make your own gods, like, and play based on that. It's just, there's so many parts. Like I said, there's so much to it without feeling crammed. Like it's, and then these parts that get me, like the top of the power part, like the text assumes you are god blood. If not, find a different page to read, gutter trash. Like, just the snarky, like, fuck you stuff in it. It just sings to me. It sings to me, you know, like, I don't know. Again, like I said, I think unquestionably my favorite book I've ever read. I want to play this so fucking bad, but like you said, we have to find the right players. And yeah, that is Sophia. So thank you so much for making this game, and for stopping by. This will be, in podcast and YouTube and the VOD here, if you weren't able to be here for the entire review. But long story short, I fucking love the shit out of this game. Like, I want to play it so bad. Game. I want to play it so bad. And yeah, cool. So that is Kingdoms. It only got a 40, but I think we talked about like the secret hidden number. It only got
40. It's our top 3. Top 3
but
games.
The secret hidden number of like how bad I want to play this game. If it's a 1 to 10, it's a 10. It's a 10 easy. Like it's this is a very good one. So yeah, super happy. Yeah. So again, Sophia, the game is gorgeous and amazing. Thank you so much for making it. I'm so glad we got to review it. And that's our podcast. So check out all our socials. They're on everything. They're all in the podcast at the bottom here. They're in the links to the YouTube VOD, so you don't need to go over that. Do we want to talk about what's happening next week, or do we want to?
Who are we talking to next week?
We are actually going to do our first like in episode interview with Max Moon of Max Moon Games. If you do not know who Max Moon is, shame on you. They are the creator of 12 Years, which is an amazing game. I'll also talk about this folder here that I got next time. And they currently have a Kickstarter in Zima right now called Fairyland. And next week I will talk about a very special tier that I got to back of Fairyland. It is a supplement that's now going to be rules for a ton of stuff because they unlocked a stretch goal for Troika, DCC, Merkborg, a bunch of stuff. So Max Moon will be on our podcast at the beginning of our next episode to talk about the handmade zines he makes, all the amazing foiling work he does on them, and Fairyland, the Kickstarter that is currently funding right now on Zemo. And then, as the episode, we are going to be going over 12 Years, the game that he did, and reviewing that as well. So that is our episode for next week.
It's going to be fucking awesome.
I can't tell you how excited. When we first started the podcast, there was like 3 or 4 people who were like, I really want to talk to these people. And for me, Max Moon was like at the top of the list. I know I said that a bunch to Hunter. I was like, he's one of the people that I really, really like to talk to. And we've been messaging, and I was going to be on the show.
Next week, just super excited for that. On the show, you know. So
we just gotta reach. Maybe after Cyber Metal's done, I just don't want to. And I just don't want to bug him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, that's super fair.
I know.
Yeah.
I can imagine the bandwidth right now, having run all of this and doing a project off Kickstarter and stuff like that is relatively lower. So maybe we'll see what happens in the future. Adam Bass, if you're listening to this, we'd love to have you on the show. But I'm not going to bug you with that right now. So that's our show. And that's what we're doing next week. So again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, rate all of our stuff. And someone comment and say what you like or hate about us. And
tell us you hate us. We want to hear it.
We'll
critique
laugh
us
about
as
it.
people.
Yeah, just notice us. And that's our podcast. So have a wonderful day. Again, Sophia, thank you so much for the game. Kingdoms is amazing. Hunter, I will talk to you probably every day until next week, but have a good day.
Probably.
All right.
Farewell, everyone.
And goodbye, everybody. Bye.